World, SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
And I've been holding hands with you.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So we're back in studio. You may wonder, what am I saying? Because in reality, when you're listening, we're always in studio, right? Because that's the way a show is broadcast. But the reality is, you can broadcast literally in studio at the SFM studio in Johannesburg or Cape Town or Durban or anywhere else around the country, or do it from an outside broadcast or some other, outside vehicle that will connect us to the main head office at the SABC and then to you all around the country, all around the world. But we are back in studio after spending 2 days at that M20 summit, which really is a summit that looks at media, and a key issue around that is media integrity and the other issue around the safety of journalists. And I think it's such a critical issue in the light of the goings on around the world around just the role of the media. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse. We'll find out together, you and I, how and what moves the National Pulse. And when you get a chance to engage with me, you can call in live 086 000 2032. And then to WhatsApp, it's voice notes, 30 seconds, please, 0614 104 107. And you can also text us and tweet using the hashtag the National Pulse, right? So one of the things I just want to tell you as well is this. Yesterday I saw it, and the day before at this outside broadcast at this M20 event in at Melrose Arch, right? One thing it does, it just reinforces what we do as broadcasters or talk shows when we get so many people coming up to me in this case here, and maybe the production team as well, and saying, hey, we listen to the show, we listen to SFM, we listen to the National Pulse, and they can be very specific about the type of things they listen to. And, in that moment, it reinforces for me my thought that ultimately the things we say, the questions we ask, the rebuttals, the follow-up questions, the asking for clarity, all of that is done, believe me, with you in mind, okay? Because that's what we need to be doing, asking questions and leading conversations that we think that the public needs to know or needs clarity on as well. So that's what we do, and this just reinforces that, and I really, really appreciate that. There's more to come. We're going to connect with our guest in just a moment. I will tell you as well, just let me throw this to you because it's an interesting one. You are aware of the flotilla, these mass number of small boats that have left, I think, Spain on the one end, to Tunisia on the other, off to Gaza to provide relief, right, for the people there. But many of the previous iterations have all been stopped at some stage or the other. Many South Africans also going. So two questions. One, do you know of any South Africans who are on that trip? Some of them leaving tomorrow, I understand. And then B, what do you feel about it? And C, just to draw the parallel in terms of these are people from around the world, in fact, trying to see how they can assist what they see as a humanitarian crisis, and providing the type of relief in terms of foodstuff and medicines and other treatment for the people of Gaza in Palestine, right? But you can reflect on that, but at the same time, reflect on this, right? How, during the height of apartheid in South Africa, and I don't talk about political parties. I'm not worried about the parties for the moment. I am talking about individuals. What do you know about individual South Africans living in South Africa or abroad, and what they did to try and fight apartheid? What is it they did that set them apart, and they didn't have to be part of any formal political structures? They could be anybody. Okay, so to give an example, Professor Barry Dwolotsky, the late Professor Barry Dwolotsky, right, and he's a good friend of mine, passed away a couple of years back. He set up the Chimologong precinct around digital economy at Wits University, right? But if you read his book, which I had the privilege of not just reading, but I actually emceed his book launch, he made the point that, in fact, he was South African based in London, and he got back to Mozambique because he had the technological know-how to provide the type of information to decipher codes that was very useful to the anti-apartheid movement at the time. So effectively, that's what he did. So therefore, I'm asking that question. What did you do, or do you know anybody who did something quite remarkable? And I'm inspired by what's happening now regarding the flotilla, where people are fronting up from around the world, but many South Africans who feel, hey, we have a real need to do something dramatic because nobody else is doing something, not in a big scale anyway, and that's what they're doing. So if you know, I'd like to know. In fact, as we connect with the guest in just a moment, I'm happy to take your calls right away. 086 000 2032. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp us 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Ohino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
I'm Andile Ncube umzilankathe siqongo no George Ntomba eyazi ngizala ke suka le emzimkhulu egugweni ila ke inkaba yasala khona. Your son got a star on his forehead, brightens your every mood when you get as old as I am. What do I like about him, Mzansi, or love? It's home. Beyond football, I enjoy cricket. Or Andile ngesixhosa go Ace Mabheka. My favorite nickname of all time, like Captain Yama 2000. In everything we do, just like the African continent is the beginnings of life, right? Just like women are the beginnings of life. The SABC and SABC Sport is exactly that.
Catch Andile, Captain Yama 2000 Ncube on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So I may tell you this because I'm happy to take your calls on this too. One of the issues that definitely moves the National Pulse is confirmation from the ANC in Limpopo that their provincial chairperson, Stanley Matabata, has written to the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbulula, informing him of his decision to step aside. In his resignation letter, Matabata expressed his concerns about misconduct and lack of ANC values within the organization. Central to that is the issues of vote rigging as well. We will certainly try and get a response on that, but you certainly can call in and connect about that right away. In the meantime, there's another issue that warrants attention, right? The Deputy Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, well, he's back in the Pretoria High Court to challenge his suspension of, a couple of months ago, in fact, in July, right? Now, the advocate, Kamil Premad, representing Sibiya, had this to say.
But this is the point that I'm making, is that if you are willing to accept that distinction, with all due respect, you're accepting form above substance. Because what that stay-at-home order does, apart from the fact that it ticks similar boxes to a legitimate precautionary suspension, like we were discussing earlier, like you've just posited to me, pay, remuneration, security, conditions of employment type of things. If that is the case, then the fact that apart from the fact that there's no such thing in the regulation, it means that Regulation 10 would be pointless. And you know that the approach to statutory interpretation is that you never interpret towards redundancy. You always interpret towards having effect. And if that is the case, then you'd have to ask yourself, why is it that a stay-at-home order, which looks like a precautionary suspension, smells like a precautionary suspension, probably for General Sibiya even tastes like a...
Okay, that's one. Let's follow up on that story now, because with me is the SABC News reporter covering that story from Pretoria. That's Sibatle Mota. I appreciate your time, Sibatle. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon as well to the listeners.
Right, so we certainly heard that clip from the advocate Kamil Premad, but there's so much more than that that's taken place. Go ahead and tell us.
Yes, definitely. I mean, if you remember last week, Ashraf, this matter could not sit following the fact that Lieutenant General Sibiya had requested, or rather applied in the High Court, that he'd like his matter to be heard before a full bench. And that application was obviously granted. There are 3 judges presiding over the matter. But the argument that Sibiya is making through his lawyer is that his disciplinary action is not up to General Fani Masemola. And what he says is that, I mean, initially when he was suspended, before he was told to stay at home, is that he got a precautionary suspension, and that suspension is normally meant to be short term, so that the individual that has been suspended is not able to interfere with any investigation or processes. And then shortly after that, then he was issued with the stay at home. In that, both those processes, they believe, are flawed, because shortly after he was suspended, then President Ramaphosa called for this Madlanga Commission, which is set to look at corruption and all these allegations that have been made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in these law enforcement agencies. So they believe that his disciplinary hearing and investigation into the allegations that have been made against him should be halted pending the outcome of the Madlanga Commission. Because they believe that running these 2 processes is not just, and you can't run these parallel processes. So they want essentially the Madlanga Commission to complete its work, and even for Sibiya to appear before the Madlanga Commission to make his representations. Thereafter, depending on the recommendations that are made in that commission, then they can start with the processes that have been instituted against him. And as you know, commissions in most instances don't have the power to prosecute. They only make recommendations. So he also just wants to present himself before the commission and, and still go on by being in his position.
Okay. I mean, that's an interesting tactic to use. I mean, would you think, therefore, and I'm not necessarily asking your opinion in terms of what has been discussed today and in court and outside, that could well be something that many others in a similar situation could be using now with the onset of that inquiry coming up now imminently?
I mean, I think the case in point that we need to look at, Ashraf, is the fact that even the police minister has been placed on leave of absence because of such serious allegations that have been leveled against him. I mean, there has been even concerns that if Shadrack Sibiya returns to his position, then there could be some form of political interference, So I think we have to look at it a case in point of suspended police minister Senzo Mchunu, and say, if Senzo Mchunu was suspended because of his serious allegations, then, what are the chances that Shadrack Sibiya, then the court will grant him or his application to be returned to his position? So I think we just need to look at that case in those two scenarios. The minister still suspended, but Sibiya is fighting tooth and nail to be reinstated back to his position.
Yeah. What happens next?
Right now, Masimula's defense is up on the podium and just arguing that he followed the right processes, defending his actions, and we can expect this court case to somehow conclude very soon, while judgments will be reserved. And I think, interestingly enough, the case of the 121 docket has actually come up in this court case, where we saw the full bench asking what Sibiya would rather have these 121 dockets do, where should they go? And his advocate saying that, there's nothing that he can do, because essentially he's in court fighting because of those 121 dockets, which are essentially at the center of this Madlanga Commission, and the fact that there's a back and forth as to who should have them, and even the fact that General Shadrack Sibiya himself is behind the allegations that he disbanded unlawfully, so this political killing task him.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving off your time, and certainly that's an issue we'll be following, moment by moment as and when it happens. So thank you for your time, Sibatle Mota, SABC News reporter in Pretoria. Thank you for that. Right, you may want to comment on the back of that too, so just feel free to add your thoughts. 086 000 2032. Here's one on the flotilla from Mark that should get you thinking. Mark saying, Mr. Garda, kindly tell us what practical achievement can be made by participating in the flotilla project, except enjoying a sea cruise. Wish I was able to waste that much money. Mark, KZN. I'll leave it to you to add to that conversation, believe me, because I think, Mark, seriously, you're a bit out of sync with the reality in terms of saying what you've said. Afternoon, Ashraf. My name is Muntu. Responding to your question, Dr. Alistair Sparks, Fanny de Klerk, Dr. Van Dale Slabbert, Prince Pringle, Mike Wood, they contributed in kind in making a few of us to be artisans in the printing industry. I hate BEE and liberation propaganda that is published in school books today. But you're saying two different things, and I'm really not sure what you mean by saying one thing and then responding to another, right? John saying, hi, Ashraf. Sam Ramsamy, Cricket South Africa, was a real pillar of support against apartheid. I'm not too sure if he was part of actually Cricket South Africa. He was what is he, head of SANROC, South African National Non-Racial Olympic Committee, I think it is, with their stated goal of actually getting apartheid South Africa banned from the Olympic movement, right? I think that's what it was. Then, of course, he became part of, I think it's called NOXA, the head of the Olympic Committee in South Africa when we had democracy. But it's that sort of thing, because it's not just the political parties and the one or two figureheads. They actually, and Ramsam is still pretty high profile. What about the others? There are many, many people who've done even simple acts that you can't be aware of. I know someone who, and I won't say who because I haven't given permission, but I know they, at some stage, Zwelinzima Vavi needed, he was on the run from the apartheid police officers, and they had to provide a safe space for him. So it's that sort of thing. A family just looking after him for a day, for a week, that sort of thing. Right, this is the National Pulse. I'll get more calls from you in a moment. Tokozani in Durban, hi.
Good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to your viewers.
Are you saying good evening?
Ashraf.
Really?
Oh, man, it's afternoon.
Man.
Always, I normally call you at 5:45.
Yeah, this is so, well beyond my time.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, no. Right,
good
go for
day.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ashraf, one question I wish to ask you. Most of the time, 2 weeks back, every time you would be advertising Utingo, the lotto, was this because they were trying to spin the the news that were affecting their balls that they are it's what you call it's systematic. They know the borders that are going to come. They put some value, or either was it a coincidence?
No, listen. Let me answer the best, simplest, humblest way I can.
Yes.
They obviously have a lotto draw every Tuesday night, so they
Yes.
promote the draw, and that's a live broadcast, live paid for broadcast. That announcement that they want to make, and therefore they have an engagement with the SABC to do just that, and that's why it's read out. Now, if you want to read anything further into that, in terms of the who, what, when, where, why, and what balls are there, and which I cannot even say a word. It's got nothing to do with that, and it's got nothing to do, by the way, with who's running it because there's also changes taking place there. This is at its very simple level. There's a lotto, and they obviously trying to encourage people to play. Whoever it is, you, me, anybody else. But that's what the plan is. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Good evening in advance. Okay. Thank you very much. Imbongeni in the northwest, right? Let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon.
Ashraf, I'd like to find out from people that know the gun laws.
Yeah.
I see in most where there's farming areas like the northwest, Free State and Mpumalanga, that I've noticed that most white people, white males, they carry guns, 9 mils or let me call it a pistol, openly, like they're police officers. To me, that doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right.
Let me just help me understand. Saying did you say white people? I'm not too sure what you meant by that. Yeah.
Mostly it's white males.
Yeah, they do. They do what?
Seen. They carry guns. You can see visibly the gun.
But look, they're not allowed. Listen, I don't have a gun. They're not allowed if they are. Look, obviously, to get the gun, you have to apply to have a gun, and then there's a track record. They look at your viability. They look at your creditworthiness. They look at your conduct, and all that sort of thing, right? But if you have a gun, you keep it in your holster, it has to be disguised. It can't be showed off in public, or even if you're visiting some people, it can't be. And that's the one thing I know. So if they're doing it, that's irresponsible. The second part is if they pull out a gun, then the intention has got to be to do something. So you can't pull out a gun for fun because it's just fun and games. I mean, that's a little bit I know, yeah.
Yeah. No, they don't pull it out, but you can see it on their waist.
Okay, but
it's visible on their waist, but it's not like, some people then you'll find they've got a jacket that is hidden with. But they've got the shorts and they carry the guns, whether they're wearing jeans or something like that, but the gun is visible. You can see the holster, you can see the nose of the gun and
what's your point? I mean, what's the point you're trying to make about the fact that it's visible?
My point is that if it's wrong, why is it a normal thing?
Okay. I'll wait for other comments. I don't think it's. I mean, you can't own a gun. Many people believe you should not own a gun, but you can own a gun legally in South Africa. But I don't think it should be visible. But if you say you've seen it, well, that's another conversation. Imbongeni, thank you for that. You've put it on the agenda. We always ask you what moves the national pulse. You've certainly done that. Joseph in the South Coast, go for it. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Right. What's your point?
Thank you, Ashraf. Ashraf, let me just quickly respond to this gentleman that just talked about the whites carrying guns visibly.
Yeah.
Go to a tavern in evenings. I'm talking about our black people. You will see guns visible. Young, 15-year-old people. Then you must take it from there.
But if they're 15, that would be illegal. I mean, that would be clearly not legal.
Exactly. Yeah. You go anywhere in the mall. It's visibly, you will see a black guy if he's carrying a gun. He will want you to notice that he's carrying a gun. Let's leave it there. I'm just talking about while I was still at school years back, there was a book that I used to read at school. It was an animal farm. This is what is happening in the ANC. Prominent, a real, well-respected person, Stanley Mathabata, resigned. What does it tell us? What does it tell us? It said that people are just going around as if nothing is happening. We are really going down.
And in his letter, he's like he doesn't want to be part of this type of And he's questioning the lack of values within the organization, which is really damning from within the ANC. Yeah.
Ashraf, thing is, we are leader-led country. This is a leader-led country. There's no leader in this country. There is no leader. Guys, we have to read it now. There is no leader in this country.
Okay, you've made your point. And Joseph knows, Joseph in the South Coast. I mean, the other point about the people in the taverns, the black people and the white people, I think just to be sure, we can say you see some white people and you see some black people. We can't say we see everybody. Everybody carries it. Everybody puts it out on the tavern. I mean, yeah. More to come. Let's get the news headlines, 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the National Consumer Commission has issued a widespread vehicle recall affecting several major car brands in South Africa to repair some defects. 5 people have died on the N1 North Freeway between the Barkley Interchange and Ellendale Road in Midrand following a fatal vehicle crash involving a minibus taxi. And the issue of the KwaZulu-Natal political killings task team dockets has come up in the High Court in Pretoria, where Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya is challenging his suspension. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. The N1 southbound has delays near Grasmere services, and Winnie Mandela Drive northbound in Hurlingham is where a crash is reported near Republic Road. In KZN, on the N3 southbound in Pietermaritzburg, a stationary truck after Market Road, Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and truck congestion reported in that Rosberg-Umbulio area, so you're asked to expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tumi, good to be in studio with you again after being away for 2 days.
Welcome back.
Thank you, but you have cricket news, right?
I do. 17-year-old wicket keeper Karabo Meso has been named in the Proteas women's squad for the upcoming World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. Meso will be playing in her first senior global tournament after featuring in 2 under-19 women's T20 World Cups, and she will compete with Sinalo Jafta for the wicket-keeping role. Just looking at the full squad, it will be led by Laura Volvard with senior players Chloe Tryron, Marizan Kap, Ayabonga Kaka, and Sune Lees adding experience, and Nonkululeko Komlaba heads the attack and spin with Masabata Klaas and Dumis Kukune boosting the seam options. In rugby chiefs have insisted that they are supporting financially stricken Samoa appropriately at the Women's World Cup. This is after it emerged that players from the Pacific Island nation had raised funds to cover domestic bills while taking part in the tournament. Samoa is an amateur side whose squad includes a police officer, a primary school teacher, and a property manager. But by contrast, tournament hosts and favourites England, a fully professional outfit, have players on contracts ranging from around 923,000 rand to 1.1 million rand. And World Rugby have said that they are doing all they can to help emerging nations, just like Samoa, by providing them with access to special coaches and bringing in former test referee Alian Rowland to help reduce their penalty counts. Then in football, Orbit College coach Boriso Magonya has raised concerns over Munapule Saleng's contribution to the team, suggesting that they might perform better without the Orlando Pirates loanee. Saleng's move to Orbit was seen as a chance to revive his career, with Magonya publicly backing the winger and handing him the captain's armband on arrival. However, now Magonya has admitted that the players' performances have been underwhelming and hinted at a possible change.
So far, I think he's not giving us what we expected from him as a big player, a player that comes with this big name. So those are the things that we need to sit down and check as a team to say, is it really affecting the team? Are we playing better when he's in the team or when he's not in the team? So those are the things that we need to look at. Those are the things that these 2 weeks we need to assess ourselves. There's a possibility. Exactly, with him also, to say you need to up your game, because we play top games on Tuesday. You came back to the team, we became a different team. because on Tuesday everybody was working. Everybody could run. I think that's the mentality. That's why I'm saying it both ways. To say you must lead us as a big player, now the weight is on him. So when he's not, everybody's putting that 110%. But when he's inside the field, they tend to say, we rely on you to lead us.
Is it unfair pressure, Ashraf, when you have a young team like Orbit College being promoted to the Betway Premiership, and then you have one player who has been obviously with a big club like Saleng, and you say, you lead us, you need to make sure that you can help the team move forward? Yes, I do know that obviously he has to perform, but is it not too much pressure to put on a player to say, you are the one that's supposed to lead us to get...
Well, it'll be no pressure if he's playing in the Wimbledon US Open, the US Open tennis final, and he's playing one man, but he's part of a team. So do they not understand that actually, even if you have 11 stars, is how do they gel together as a team?
Right.
Football is a team sport.
Well, still staying with football, Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers says that Kelechi Iheanacho will make a big contribution after beating the Europa League signing deadline to secure the Nigerian striker as a free agent. The 28-year-old's arrival on a one-year contract comes 24 hours after he came to an agreement with Sevilla to terminate his deal with the Spanish club. It also comes after Celtic came under fire from their supporters for their failure to sign a striker on transfer deadline day. In swimming, South African swimming sensation Peter Kutzer says that he is determined to one day break the men's 100-meter backstroke world record of 51.60 seconds, but insists that he feels no pressure to achieve it immediately. Now, Kutzer clocked an African record of 51.85 seconds to win gold in the 100-meter backstroke final at the World Aquatics Championships in Singapore, and he says that while the record is a long-term target, he does not want to be consumed by it.
I don't like saying like I'm going for the world record, because that's puts a lot of pressure on you, and you look like an idiot if you say that and you end up not getting it. So I'll say it's possible for me to break the world record. Yes, I was 0.25 seconds away, so that's very close. So now going forward, when I compete in a big race in a Worlds or a Commonwealth, I'm going to know it's possible. I'm not going to say I'm going into this race to break the world record, but I'm going to know in the back of my mind it's doable and it might happen. So I'd say that's my mindset in regards to that moving forward.
That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, team sport, individual sport. I just wonder, think about it, and maybe, have you had a good example of a player, an individual who is just such a great team player, and then the opposite, a brilliant player in whichever sport, who is brilliant as a player but not a good team player? I'm not asking you that to me, because I want you to think about it. You may come back and say, actually, now that I think about it, it's so and so. But think about it, more sport in an hour.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front-of-package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front-of-package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, I've just heard the news that the Western Cape government has now filed papers challenging the NHI Act in the Constitutional Court. That story is going to run, I know that too, right? Right, let's talk about firearms.
Hi, Ashraf, and to the listeners. Yeah, the guy that called you recently about firearms. In fact, what he's trying to say is that those folks are not concealing their firearms, because when you are carrying a gun, you must make sure that the person next to you mustn't see it. And that's what the law says. But they are not abiding by the law. They just carry it the way they like. You can even see the make of the firearm, which is not good. And for some reason, these police officers are afraid of them. Thanks.
So why would they do that? I can only think about bravado to say, don't mess with me. Look at what I've got. You know, look at the six-pack. Look at something else that I've got. Why else would they want their gun to be visible? Well, let's talk about visibility and invisibility around what's happened in Syria and France, because here's a developing story. The French judicial authorities have issued arrest warrants for the former Syrian, ousted now, right, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and 6 other top former officials in connection with a 2012 bombing that killed Marie Colvin, an American who worked for the British newspaper The Sunday Times, and the French photographer Remy Ochlik. And Assad fled, as we know, to Russia with his family after being overthrown by the rebel forces last year. So let's try and understand, what would be the rationale behind this for France, and what would be the end goal out of this. Ibrahim Dean is with me, who's an independent researcher and a political commentator. Ibrahim, appreciate your time on the National Pulse. Ibrahim, do we have you there?
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Right. So, okay, set the scene for us. What would be the motive for the French to effectively, take this issue a step further from a leader who's not the leader of his country any longer?
I think it's 2 things. One is France has always had a very antagonistic relationship with the Assad regime, and one is the biggest, supporters of rebel forces, between at least 2012 and 2015. So that's one of the factors. And 2 is, France at the moment is, from a perspective of global politics, is actually, on the down. It's been pushed out of Africa, and there's now this attempt to, create or to vocalize, somewhat of a moral legitimacy, which, is in a sense hypocritical, because France just a few months ago said that it wouldn't carry out arrests on Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant because the leaders and they have ICC leaning to ICC warrants, even though the warrants were arrested. So there is a double standard, but based on generally how France carries out its foreign policy, and wants to project an emphasis or an image of morality, even though there's a lot of double standards in.
Okay, and in linking these or issuing these arrest warrants, what is the actual charge against Bashar al-Assad and his the 6 other top officials with him? What is the actual charge? What are they claiming that they've done directly?
So the charge is basically a war crime, in this specific attack. which has been incorporated into, French law. So, many other countries can, you can charge, there's such a thing called universal jurisdiction, which is, in some of the legal systems, which has been used in a sense to actually, charge this case and carry out this case. Had it been, had it not necessarily been, because the case wasn't necessarily put to the court by the French, government, but, the French government's lack of action in the case actually shows that it was, supportive of the case. So, there is in a sense a somewhat of a plausible deniability in a sense, but from a legal perspective, universal jurisdiction is recognized by some countries. War crimes, the causes in the cases are quite numerous, and so there is a big case law on it. And that no one has said that the trial itself is was problematic. The Assad regime was very brutal, and regularly committed atrocities against civilians. At the time, Homs was under siege.
Okay.
And,
So outside of the obvious double standards you've mentioned, and we can have a whole conversation about that anyway, right? But let's just take this for what it is right now. One thing is issuing the warrant. Is it largely symbolical? Because there's no way, if I understand it correctly, that there can be an extradition from Russia, for example, for Bashar al-Assad, isn't it? So is it mainly, ceremonial, symbolical in that sense, more than anything else?
Yes, that's why this attempt to try and project some sort of a moral legitimacy, which is doing. So it's a symbolic action for the morality, and also because Assad currently resides in Russia. And obviously the French and the Russians, have an increasingly antagonistic relationship, especially in areas of the Sahel and Francophone, West Africa, where the Russians have supplanted the French as the main dominant power. So, there's two prongs to, the case itself. But as you said, on the ground, it can make very little difference. Because Assad's not going to travel to France anytime soon, and Russia is not going to give him up.
Has there been a reaction from the new Syrian government?
The new Syrian government to date has not said anything, but it would be supportive of the decision or of the case. Similar to the French, they themselves experience much of what Assad meted out towards Syrian civilians. So they would be supportive of the case, and many Syrians themselves would be supportive of the case. At least symbolically, they would want him to face trial in Syria himself, itself. But they would. They have been trying to pressurize Russia previously to give him, back so he can face charges in Syria for his alleged atrocities.
And the last thing in back to France again, regarding the fact that A is in Russia, Bashar al-Assad in particular, but number two, the fact that they've issued this warrant and you can charge under war crimes. Could he be therefore charged in absentia without even defending himself and tried and convicted in France?
We saw this with Pinochet in previously in Spain, where they used the universal jurisdiction and were able to carry out the trial without, of him in absentia. It's very likely that would possibly go ahead, and he would be convicted. And so, yes, the charges, the case, in actual fact, won't really mean anything because he's currently in Russia. But yes, there is a big possibility that the trial will go ahead, without him being present and without him, being able to defend himself. Which, he does have the option, but the warrants would mean that he would be arrested the moment he sets foot into France.
Well, thanks for enlightening us on that issue, Ibrahim Deen, independent researcher, political commentator. In the context of that, the French authorities now issuing an arrest warrant for the former Syrian president, leader Bashar al-Assad, and 6 others in connection with the bombing, 2012 bombing that killed an American newspaper journalist and French photographer as well. But of course, has that bus sort of moved on? Think about that. Right, more to come, including your thoughts, your comments, if you're up for it, anytime, based on, the issues we've raised already. Lots of conversation about the ANC and regarding the position taken by the ANC chair in the Limpopo region. That's one thing. The other is the issues we've just raised about the flotilla and maybe examples of South Africa. But what about the issues of guns? I can tell you now, so many people want to talk about guns, invisible guns, visible guns. Either way, you're moving the national pulse.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tani?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I promise you that you're going to respond to the story. The ANC Youth League have criticized the DTIC's proposed amendments to the National Credit Regulations, arguing that if that is signed into law, the proposal will effectively prevent students and graduates from accessing opportunities in certain sectors because they've been blacklisted, by credit bureaus. And that, as you would understand, could well be a big barrier to employment. So what is the story here? What are the changes all about? Zama Kanyase is the national spokesperson of the ANC Youth League. Appreciate your time, Zama. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Greetings, and thank you for having us.
Okay. So help us understand, so where are we at first in terms of the regulations that proposes a blacklisting for students who are not paying their student debt, right?
Yes. A discussion has been opened, and I think as is how it always happens, that when there is an amendment, there must happen to an act. Right now, this particular department has proposed the amending of the National Credit Act. So they are going to be calling for comments or commentary on these amendments that must be made. But from their side, part of the proposed amendments that they've put forward was that students who owe institutions of higher learning should actually be sent through to the National Credit Bureaus for blacklisting. And as the ANC League, we vehemently oppose this. But also of our concern is how these discussions, when these proposals amend some of these acts, the information does not reach our society. I think there's not much effort that is done to make sure that the sector of society concerned knows about the ongoing discussions and the invitation for them to participate. That's why the Youth League have said, if there is a proposal of this nature, but that would touch the youth in this manner, then the department concerned should make sure that student formations and youth formations know about this and are afforded an opportunity to comment.
So look, normally, normally you don't pay and you're a slow payer. There's some sort of an adverse report on your name, and we know that, right? Which does affect people. But what would be the motivation? What is your understanding of this? What would be the motivation from the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, DTIC, to actually go ahead with this regarding people who are effectively learners and students on campuses, struggling students at that?
We don't know, and quite frankly, we do not want to know, because it stands against everything that the government has expressed that it stands for. The government has said that the youth must have access to education. They've said that they want to prioritize youth development. They've said that they want to make sure that the youth participate in the economy. So when you say before you can even go on to participate in the same economy, before you can even get a job, you're already blacklisted. That's basically just killing you before you even start. So we don't know what the motivation is, and we are opposed to it, and we don't want to understand.
Okay. Now, in terms of your opposition, what about the flip side of this? And of course, maybe at some stage we need to get the Department of Trade and Industry on board on this one here. What about the flip side, which is that, and of course, we are speculating, but to say, hold it, we have to put a clamp on learners who get, let's say, NSFAS funding and maybe others where there's loans and they don't pay, and they just think they cannot pay it all anyway. So if we don't put a clamp on that through an adverse report, then we run the risk of them never paying, which then means that we have no more money in the coffers to help other learners. So students, do they not have a point there?
The reason why, in the first place, it has always been said that, I mean, the president, the predecessor of President Cyril had said, which is Jacob Zuma, had said that he's declaring free education. It was to curb all of these problems that you have, because how do we determine that now this particular student who studied now affords? How are you going to separate them? How are you going to say this one must now pay, this one affords, and so forth? Education, access to education should not be monetized, should not be made out to be something that is profit-orientated, because there is no institution that has been unable to function because there are certain students who do not pay for their debts as how they would quickly want them to. Here we're talking about a problem that right now there are students, there's a backlog of students who don't have their qualifications because they have to pay and they're not even working yet. They can't even get their qualifications to go and look for work. So the problems go back to that, to say that before we can even resolve these issues, that some go to school and then get penalized and punished for that and get into depression because they can't even get their qualifications. Okay. They can't even get their certificates, and now they're going to be blacklisted on top of that.
All right, so what's your recourse? And I say that specifically because the ANC Youth League is part of the ANC, and the ANC is the dominant party even now in government. So when you oppose government's position, you're opposing your own party's position.
Well, the ANC Youth League has always been a body of opinion within the ANC. We have never minced our words when it comes to calling out issues that we believe are not in the best interest of our constituents, which in this case, students are part of our youth. And it is youth that are going to be affected by this. And we are going to be engaging the ANC even internally, because this discussion is now in the public domain. We have to take the discussion there as well and be clear that we stand opposed to it, and we are going to be submitting our formal opposition to this, to the ongoing discussion. What we are suggesting is that instead, there must be more, because the government has said they are going to prioritize education. So the budget must reflect that. It cannot be that at some point there are going to be students who are now going to be blacklisted. We are saying that, one, in fact, they should rather work on clearing all historical debts of students, because education is a right in South Africa.
Okay, so just to conclude, yeah. Sorry, carry on. Go ahead.
Yes, so you cannot then be treated the same way as someone who went out to buy something and now they are not paying and then they are blacklisted. It cannot be treated in the same way. We are saying if there is any recourse, it cannot include blacklisting students for trying to access education.
All right. Just the last thing then. What is the solution from the point that there are thousands of learners at universities or tertiary institutes who don't have the money to be able to study? They either get loans, they get funding, they get grants, and then, as you know, many of them can't pay. They not yet graduated, they don't have jobs, they're really struggling. But on the other hand, there is a need to fill up the coffers so that others can benefit. Now, what for you then is the win? If this is a lose situation, how do we move from a lose situation to a win-win situation?
Firstly, I must tell you that institutions have monies in their coffers. have monies that are stored that are not even utilized, that are like a backup cash. So there's no way that an institution will be unable to function because there are certain students who have not paid up for their debts. You'd know that NEFSAS was out trying to enforce some of these institutions to pay back monies of packages they did not disperse, that they were given by NEFSAS but didn't disperse to students. So we're saying that there is a solution. There is money that can be actually injected into the budget of education to clear historical debts and to make sure that students go to school. And we're saying that NEFSAS needs to continue transforming into a full-on bursary where beneficiaries are going to be paid. Their studies are going to be paid for without a need to pay back.
All right.
There can be measures put in place to say that how do you give back to the community in South Africa for having been taken to school, that we accept. But we're saying it shouldn't be a loan that has to be paid and eventually lead to being blacklisted.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Zama Kanyase from the ANC Youth League, the spokesperson there. It's an interesting thought in terms of what they feel about it. What for you would be the win-win situation around that? Is it complex or is it not complex? Are the coffers unlimited or in fact there's a lid on that? Think about it. Here's the news at 4.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, urgent recall of several vehicle brands and road crash claims 5 lives in Midrand. For SFM News, I am Ondelambana and a very good afternoon. The National Consumer Commission has issued a widespread vehicle recall affecting several major car brands in South Africa to repair some defects. The recall impacts models from Ford, BMW, Volkswagen and Hino. The Commission says Ford is recalling its Mustang vehicle from 2021 and 2022, as well as its Transit Custom vehicles made available between 2024 and 2025. BMW is recalling its X3 G45 series, while VW SA is recalling certain Polo models made available from the 19th to the 23rd of May this year. Hino is also recalling some of its 500 series buses. The Commission spokesperson Petron Daba says owners should take immediate action.
We really want to urge the owners of all these vehicles and the bus to immediately contact their accredited or authorized dealerships for them to carry out the necessary repair. Remember, you just need to ensure that your vehicle is not affected. If you're not sure, contact them and give them their VIN number. And of course, where they need to repair the vehicle or replace any defective component, they will carry that or they will do that at no cost to you as a consumer.
5 people have died on the N1 North Freeway between the Barclay Interchange and Ellendale Road in Midrand following a fatal vehicle crash involving a minibus taxi. The Johannesburg Metro Police Department spokesperson Xolani Fihla has cautioned motorists of major traffic disruptions due to some road closures in the area.
Emergency services and law enforcement officials are currently on the scene. The accident has resulted in multiple injuries and tragically 5 confirmed fatalities. The far right lane is currently affected and traffic is severely backed up. A full closure of the freeway will be necessary shortly to allow for the proper processing of the scene and recovery operations. Motorists can expect heavy delays in both directions on the N1 freeway, and JMPD strongly advises all road users to avoid the section of the freeway and to seek alternative routes. Motorists are urged to exercise patience and to drive with caution.
Meanwhile, Fihla says protesting residents in Claremont, northwest of Johannesburg, have barricaded Ondergas Road with burning tyres over prolonged water outages. They are demanding the immediate restoration of the area's water supply. Fihla has advised motorists to be cautious when travelling around the area.
In Johannesburg, Metropolitan Police Department officers are currently monitoring the protest, and the situation is calm despite the closure, and motorists are advised to exercise caution, avoid the area and use alternative routes such as Molly Road.
The issue of the KwaZulu-Natal political killings task team dockets has come up in the High Court in Pretoria, where Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya is challenging his suspension. The South African Police Services has clarified that the original dockets will remain with the KZN Political Killings Task Team, while copies will be held with the Madlanga Commission to enable them to do their work. The 121 dockets are at the center of the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who further accused Sibiya of having a hand in the unlawful disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team. When questioned on what should be done with the dockets, Advocate Camille Premid, who represents Sibiya, argued that his client is not at liberty to say what should happen to them.
The effect of being told to stay at home, one would imagine, is that he cannot do anything operationally whilst that continues. So to the extent that there is a question asked about what he should be doing, my response is I'm not sure that he can be saying anything about what should be happening with those dockets, because he's currently at home and outside the operational remit of what he might otherwise have.
The leaders of China, Russia and North Korea have appeared in public together for the first time in a show of solidarity at a massive military parade in the Chinese capital, Beijing. Overseeing the display of thousands of troops and advanced weaponry, President Xi Jinping said the world faced a choice between peace and war. The BBC's Frank Gardner has the details.
China has embarked over the last recent few years on an extraordinary build-up of its weapons in all domains, in cyber, on land and sea, in the air, and they've been very innovative in some of their designs. I mean, they lead the world in something called hypersonic weapons. These are missiles that travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound. And these are things that I think are going to be worrying the US Navy, that is still trying to retain supremacy in the Pacific Ocean.
Recapping the top story, the National Consumer Commission has issued a widespread vehicle recall affecting several major car brands in South Africa to repair some defects. The recall impacts models from Ford, BMW, Volkswagen and Hino. I'm Mondelambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, SA Rugby becomes shareholder in a United Rugby Championship. Cricket South Africa reveals Proteas Women 2025 World Cup squad, and Team South Africa confident that they can break World Champs medal drought. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, the N1 southbound in Pretoria, a stationary truck after Rigel Avenue, Allendale Road westbound in Midrand has delays towards Dane Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 southbound in Pietermaritzburg, a stationary truck after Market Road, and Dumgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. Main Road outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway, and Strand Road eastbound in Stickland slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So here's a fundamental question, really, based upon the conversation we just had. Should learners at universities, campuses, and tertiary institutes who receive funding, who are then unable to pay for that funding that they receive to be able to fund the universities or tertiary institutions that they're attending, should they then default, which often happens because they're just in a debt trap? Should they be listed as or blacklisted, like defaulted from a credit position which harms their prospects of future credit and being able to leverage of their assets if and when they get there. Should they do that or not? I'd like to get your thoughts on this. This is the National Pulse, and certainly the National Pulse racing locally and abroad. Let's talk about global here. The report from TRT World quoting the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich saying there will never and can never be a Palestinian state in our land. And he said that according to him, he said 82% of Palestinians opposed the West Bank will be annexed to block the creation of a Palestinian state, which we know 147 other UN member states do recognize. But he's saying Israeli sovereignty will be applied to 82% of the territory of what is called the West Bank, which is not Gaza, which is on the other side of this divide between these countries, right? Complex. What about the J20 summit? So yesterday we were at the M20 summit, which is the build-up around the media. So J is in justice. I would think the Chief Justice Mandisa Maya hosting the Constitutional Courts and Supreme Court Summit. Oh, I'd love to have been there at the Sandton Convention Center in Joburg today. So let's pick out some of the feed of what she said. First of all, like the why. What's the issue? What's the big deal about the summit?
We are most grateful too to our colleagues from this continent, from the uppermost tip of Africa, Algeria, all the way down to our immediate neighbor, Zimbabwe, just across our northern borders. And the African Court of Human and People's Rights is part of this group. It cannot be overstated that South Africa carries the responsibility of hosting this summit, not just for herself, but for the whole of Africa, her people, and their hope for a just future. This summit is for us more than a mere diplomatic courtesy. It is a historical convergence, a deliberate and necessary assembly of the judicial guardians of the free world at a time when the pillars of democracy and human dignity are under unprecedented strain, and the very foundations of justice are being tested and reshaped by global change. In the grand tapestry of human progress, there are moments that demand not just reflection, but resolution, moments that call upon the stewards of justice to step forward and affirm power of the law, the enduring power of the law in an imperiled world. This is one of those moments.
Right. So what about the judiciary? What control does the judiciary have over key components that make up, South Africa's justice system?
Judicial independence is widely understood to be protected by three fundamental aspects: security of tenure, financial independence, and administrative control. Three characteristics which are meant to support the judiciary as an institution, as well as the independence of individual judges from undue external influence. Marking a significant departure from our painful past as a country, the advent of the constitutional dispensation in South Africa introduced a new kind of a judicial system, a judiciary that is independent from other arms of government and is accountable only to the Constitution and the law, which it must apply impartially and without fear, favor, or prejudice. Judicial independence, which has two components, individual independence and institutional independence, respectively, referring to the ability of judicial officers to act independently and impartially, and the existence of structures and guarantees to protect our courts and judicial officers from interference by other branches of government, is thus of utmost importance for the courts to effectively play their crucial role and conserve an impartial judicial process. Under the historical governance system of the South African judiciary, the court administration of both the superior courts and the magistracy was controlled by the executive. In 2009, the then Chief Justice, lobbied the executive and began a series of ambitious reforms which were aimed at securing full independence of South Africa's judiciary. In that exercise, the Office of the Chief Justice was established as a national department through a presidential proclamation to provide support to the Chief Justice as the leader of the judiciary and advance the independence and effectiveness of the judiciary. However, this did not bring about an efficient, effective, and accessible justice system because full independence was not achieved. The executive still maintains control over the budget and financial management of the judiciary, which is the heart of the power and ability to meaningfully run anything at all. The judiciary has limited control over key components of court administration, such as the establishment of magistrates' courts, the appointment of magistrates and support staff, security and information technology, with many of our court buildings, especially the magistrates' courts, which serve as courts of first conduct, in poor condition due to years of underfunding and neglect.
Okay, let's see that reaction from you on that issue in terms of the J20. Most welcome as well. You may be aware, because we'll cover the story just now, of this horrific accident, in the Midrand area of Gauteng, Joburg today, where 5 people have been killed in this taxi crash on the N1 and between the Kloof interchange and Allendale Road in Midrand. Many people know it's a crazy jam road, but again, the key factor here is taxis, which just happens so often, isn't it? Okay, let's get your thoughts on some of the issues that we need to be picking up on here, and one of them, clearly about the issue of the African National Congress, is something we touched on at the very beginning.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Winelands. Ashraf, 2 concerns. The ANC is busy with self-destructing. Stan Matabata stepping down. And then again, this Minister of Children and Women spending 3 million rand on a trip for a conference. And the DG last night admit that was wasteful. Money was unnecessary spent. So why is the president not stepping up his game and ask her to step aside so that they can investigate? Yeah, Senzo was put on suspension. The DA minister was removed, fired. Have a good show, bye-bye.
Okay, there we are. Have a good show. And you just said, why doesn't the president step up? I believe talking about stepping up the stories, remember the Guptas? Well, their home in India has been raided, and what that means. I really am battling to understand. Can they ever be arrested? Can they be brought to South Africa when they say that the net is being tightened on them? Like, what does that really mean? Tabo from Soweto saying, Ashraf, this is just selfishness. How are next students going to be funded? They should be blacklisted should they refuse to pay when employed. NSFAS or ANSFAS should redraft the agreement, including repayment clauses from Tabo. Okay, that's Tabo's views. Of course, we've got your views. You're on the pulse. I need to hear it too. Here's another very topical issue too.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the team. Good show as always. I know of the grandson of Nelson Mandela that is going to Gaza on a fratella. Yeah. Grandson of Nelson Mandela is going to Gaza on a fratella. Good luck to them. Thank you, BK.
Okay, thanks for that, BK. Yes, it's Mandela Mandela certainly going, and he's been very much a supporter of the Palestinian cause, but he's part of a whole group. I don't know how many, maybe 20 South Africans, if you know others. Give me their names, and then there could be others, I think there are, from around the world, but they're all there ultimately on a humanitarian mission to try and break the siege in terms of providing support. That's how they said it. How do you see it?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, you see the president, they should recall the provincial commissioner of SAPS in the Western Cape. People are dying in the Western Cape like flies, and he's doing absolutely nothing. All he wants is to attend crime scene after the incident have occurred. He just like to appear on TV. He's doing absolutely nothing. Call the soldiers, the army to come and assist, conduct raids throughout the Western Cape, more especially in the Cape Flats. Please, man. Mr. Ashraf, serious, people are dying daily.
In fact, in the Western Cape, I noticed the other day they've called for further funding and further support from national government around policing, because what we don't quite know is the relationship between provincial government and national with regard to policing, and they feel they need to step up and they can't do it on their own because they're not allowed to do it on their own. It's a national government issue. Pretty complex. We need to maybe touch on that too. So we spoke about the SACP. Well, what about we spoke about the ANC Youth League. What about the SACP?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Marumo Mahikeng. You know, maybe the ANC should allow the SACP to stand in the upcoming elections, because the SACP is not even the alliance partner. They just want to stand on the upcoming elections of 2026 and maybe 2029. Maybe they will help those who are angry at the ANC to try the SACP. Because the ANC itself, Ashraf, is DEAD, is dead.
Nice, man. The other day we had one of the guests saying the African Union is DEAD. What else for you is DEAD? Here's a thought. Imagine the SACP standing for election on its own, and then after that they form a coalition with the ANC. That's not far-fetched. That really is not far-fetched. Here's another.
Good day, Ashraf, and SAFM listeners. I think Shadrach Zviya is wasting his time. Even if he's a lawyer, you were supposed to advise him that he cannot win such things like that, because his allegations, the allegations have to be probed first while he's suspended. He can't win a case like that. He can't go back to work. You see? This Paramit guy was supposed to advise his client that it is suspension. As long as you get paid, will stand until the final investigation be made. I think we'll be done with that.
Okay, you've made your point. And you know the good news? We're going to hear your points to the rest of you. You're on the pulse. I need to feel you. You can call in live right away. This is the National Pulse.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Abapemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Moore and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Let us celebrate #Izinja Zegame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday, 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
So you thought you were building a business? In this economy? Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Absolutely, let's talk. Sian King Williamstown, go for it, Sia.
Ashraf, thank you very much, man. Look, the point I want to raise, Ashraf, is my frustration with government. We have a very high unemployment rate, especially in my province. Now, our kids are sitting at home this week because they haven't been paid stipend. So they are now part of the group that's unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking myself, why can't the government contract students directly to workplaces or employment as opposed to calling in a middle person or a middle company? They haven't been paid. No one wants to answer. We are being ignored.
But contracted to who? I mean, who do they work for? Because, they can't work for government if government's got no place for them.
Actually, I've received a letter dated the 1st of September apologizing for the delay. And this comes from Cheaper Training Academy. And our kids are working for the provincial government. Now, I don't know how to link the two, but they are being paid by this Cheaper Training Academy. Cheaper, the football association, I don't know how to.
Cheaper United,
Yes. So, for 5 months now, my daughter is saying they haven't been receiving pay slips. They haven't been receiving nothing that relates to them being employed by this organization.
But they're not getting paid, or they're getting paid.
They are not getting paid.
So how is it that?
A letter,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, they got a letter. So for this month, they haven't been paid. So they decided, or they've been told to stay home until they get paid. Now, you have kids here who have had hope on the program that they're going to graduate and go far in life.
Yeah.
Now, we're waking up with them in the morning. They are not doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, all right. I need to move on only because of time, but I'll tell you what you do. Leave your details with Keys, okay? Because I think we need to follow up on this one here. It's important. I mean, there's also the other one, the Youth Employment Services, or YES, right? Where, government does a deal with big business, and it's mainly for people who are interns. They can't be working full time. They get employed for a year at a stipend, 5,000, 6,000 rands a month, I think it is, and they get employed at a certain company, but companies actually sponsor it. That's what I do know. Sian, thank you for that. Churchill in Mtata, hello.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yeah, Churchill, go for it. Your point?
Ashraf, what is going on in this country? Why are we subjecting our young people to this? Ashraf, there are young people in these institutions who find themselves owing institutions because of NSFAS, because of the poor management of NSFAS.
Mm-hmm.
One time it is said they qualify, one time it's said they don't qualify. Some of the students had to go home, and this impacts negatively on their academic performance.
Definitely.
These are the harsh realities that are being faced by young people because of poor management of NSFAS.
And their future too. I agree with you. Absolutely.
It's really unfair, Ashraf. And you know what? We need to revisit this, Ashraf. This thing of NSFAS must be paid, must be made a loan for all students, regardless. So that government has got a responsibility to create employment through the private sector, so that is how they're going to pay anyway.
Okay, you see, let me move on. In principle, I think you're right. In practical steps, there's not enough money to say all of it is a loan. There's just not enough money. That's the problem. Why we have this huge issue with balancing act. But I'll tell you what, we need to chat to the Department of Trade and Industry about just what's their motivation around it. So, Churchill, thanks for that. Let's get to Joburg now. Eunice, what's your point? Eunice, hi. Yeah, Eunice, do I have you there? Hello.
Yeah,
go for it,
are
Eunice.
You
Yes, you certainly are. Go for it, Eunice.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought about the story of the flotilla, because just when I thought the South African media weren't covering it, and surely they, haven't heard much about it. So there are 11 South Africans that are going on this flotilla trying to break the siege on Gaza. And amongst them is obviously Mandla Mandela, who gave an impassioned speech on Sunday, when they had the farewell thing there at the Zoo Lake. And remember, Mandla's got 2 young kids there. His wife was there. And a very impassioned speech he gave of what he's trying to do in terms of breaking the siege.
Mm-hmm.
Amongst the 11 are Jared Sachs and Joe Bloon. Now, very interestingly, both of them belong to the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. And really, it takes courage for them also to be there, because they're saying what Israel is doing is not in their name. And that's very critical. Mm-hmm. Joe Bloon is going to be on one of the ships that's carrying all the legal eagles there. And really, all of them must be commended. I think South Africans have to keep an eye out, because Remember previously when there was a previous ship a few years ago, the Mavi Mavara went there, and the ruthless soldiers of the IDF went in there and killed about 10 or 11 people on that ship. So remember, these people are taking humanitarian aid, trying to break the siege on Gaza, the barbaric siege on Gaza, if I may say.
So, Yunus, here's a quick question to you then, right? So there's 11. I mean, answer your question. I mean, we had an outside broadcast for the last couple of days, and the plan is possibly to look into the story tomorrow or Friday. I mean, that's our commitment that we're trying to do. But here's the question to you. How do they break the siege? When you say they're trying to break the siege, how do they do so practically?
Well, remember in this one, there's about 50 ships that are going from people from 44 different countries. And previously, the IDF has put in all their ships, their helicopters, and trying with their navy, blocking this thing. So they are trying to go en masse, trying to break it and go and give that aid to the starving people there, what we're seeing on television, and it's no lie. So in that attempt they are doing, and I think our prayers need to be with these people. They are South Africans, and the rest of them who are on the flotilla. We need to keep an eye on it. The media needs to keep an eye on it, and any level-headed person will say our prayers are with these people, because the courage that they've got, many of us don't even have to get on those ships. You know, I mean,
all right.
and trying to...
Point made. Perfect. Eunice, we've endeavored to try and cover the story tomorrow or Friday. We know that, right? Thank you for your time. I'll tell you what, so Eunice has mentioned maybe 3 names. I don't know the other 3 or 4. Who are the other 7 or 8? I'd like to know. I don't know all of them. Let me know. And what is their story behind that story? 4:30, just gone. 4:30, here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Deputy Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, has been summoned to appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee. The National Consumer Commission has issued a widespread vehicle recall affecting several major car brands in South Africa to repair some defects. The recall impacts models from Ford, BMW, Volkswagen and Hino. And China has put on a huge display of its latest military hardware at a parade through the heart of Beijing, attended by leaders of Russia and North Korea. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand is where a serious crash with fatalities is recorded between Buccleuch Interchange and Allendale Road. All lanes are open with heavy traffic, so you're encouraged to use alternative routes. The N1 northbound in Sunninghill, a stationary vehicle on the off-ramp to Rivonia Road, and on the R55 northbound, queuing traffic through Barbecue Downs. In KZN on the N3, a truck crashed recovery near Van Rieenen town with traffic being stacked, so you're asked to expect delays. And the M19 westbound in Westville, slow moving towards Dunkel Road. In Cape Town, the M3, Philip Hosana Drive outbound, queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N2 outbound, slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. And on Camps Bay Drive westbound, a vehicle fire just south of Kloofnik that's causing delays. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Khapele.
You've got a rugby story, yeah?
Yes, I do. The United Rugby Championship has confirmed that the South African Rugby Union has become the league's 6th shareholder, joining the Irish, Italian, Scottish and Welsh rugby unions, along with CVC Capital Partners as shareholders in the Pro Rugby Championship DAC, which is the company that operates the league. SA Rugby's relationship with the competition dates back to 2018 when the Cheetahs and Southern Kings joined the Pro 14. In 2021, the launch of the URC introduced the Lions, Stormers, Sharks and the Bulls, and since then the URC has achieved significant growth across broadcast audiences, digital engagement and match attendance, with the SA Rugby and its teams playing a pivotal role in that particular success. In cricket South Africa has named a 15-player squad for the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup in India, which is running from the 30th of September to the 2nd of November. Laura Fulvard leads a seasoned unit featuring Chloe Tryon, Marizanne Kapp, Ayabonga Kaka and Sunil Lees, with firepower from Tasman Brits and a versatile all-rounder group group, including Nadine de Klerk, Anneke Bosch, Annerie Dirksen, and Nondumiso Shangaze. Wicketkeepers Sinalo Jafta and 17-year-old Karabo Meso brings experience and youth, while the bowling attack is bolstered by Nonkululeko Mlaba, Masabata Klaas, and Dumis Kukune. Now, South Africa kicks off against England on the 3rd of October, aiming for a strong run in subcontinent conditions. Then moving on to football. Kenya national team head coach Benny McCarthy has been named Coach of the Month for August by the Sports Journalists Association of Kenya following Harambee Stars' historic run at the Chan tournament. McCarthy's men topped Group A with 10 points, defeating tournament winners Morocco, former champions DR Congo, and Zambia, while drawing with Angola. And their spirited campaign ended in quarterfinals, edged out by Madagascar in a dramatic penalty shootout. Meanwhile, in cycling, 4-time Tour de France champion Chris Froome has sustained a life-threatening injury to his heart in a training crash in southern France last week. The 40-year-old was airlifted to hospital in Toulon after the 27th of August crash, which also left him broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and a back fracture. And according to his wife, she says that doctors discovered that Froome had suffered a tear in the protective sac surrounding the heart, often caused by blunt chest trauma. And finally, in athletics, Olympic 800-meter silver medalist Ezekiel Sebeng believes that Team South Africa has the firepower to finally end its medal drought at the upcoming World Athletics Championship in Tokyo from the 13th to the 21st of September. Now, South Africa last reached the podium at the London edition in 2017 and has since endured barren campaigns in Doha, Oregon, and Budapest. But Sebeng now, who is the Athletics South Africa's high-performance manager, is quite confident that the streak will be broken this year. Actually, Athletics South Africa just announced a 49-member squad that is made up of 32 men and 17 women, including the likes of Akane Simbini, Tsepo Chite, Roy Galante, Antonio Alcana, Marouane Fourie, Ashley Erasmus, and Jessica Groenewald. And I'm wishing them nothing but the best moving forward. Ashraf, with regards to your question earlier on,
which is what?
Which is who's the first person or player that comes to mind that I think is not really a team player.
Yeah.
And I did ask you going out, do you think and I love him, like I really do feel like I'm a fan. Do you think Cristiano Ronaldo is a team player? He's brilliant, but do you think he's a team player?
You sound like a political talk show host. That's like so complicated.
Listen, he's brilliant. Yes, he does elevate the team. But do you think personally he loves being in a team?
I don't know him. I've never met him, so I can't really say with certainty. But there are elements of what he does that comes across as very singular, right?
Yes.
As opposed to teamish. That's the elements are there. Mm-hmm. But here's the interesting thing. In his obsession about singular goals, right?
Yeah.
The benefit is to the team anyway, because he raises the bar of his team so high. He sets the highest standards, and he's maintained it for 40 years. It's incredible, right?
He does.
That if you're playing around him, you have no choice but to lift your game, and you're going to win many things.
It's quite interesting because
although he struggled in Saudi Arabia, he's done well, but his team hasn't won much. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
I hear you, but it's quite interesting because I'm also watching this docu, Miami FC, where Messi is now playing, and the exact same thing that you just explained, that around him, because he's such a perfectionist, everyone now wants to elevate their performance. But you can truly say, when you look at that docu, that Messi's a team player.
Okay.
But anyway, that's
and
just
I'm sure
me.
half the country is like, okay, I want to add my views to this one.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September, 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to those numbers with Paswane Mpatlele from Makwe Fund Managers. Right, you got news local and global, but let's start with Woolworths.
Yeah, so with Woolworths, Ashraf, we got the year-end results for June 2025, and Woolworths results give us a mixed set of results. It's clearly continuing to reflect that the food business is continuing to support the group as it delivers sales up 11% at the back of strong volume demand. Margins are also up. Earnings before the interest and taxes are up, but the area of concern is around the fashion, the beauty, the home division. Their sales were just up 4.7, reflecting stabilizations. Margins are down, earnings are down 9%. The biggest dragger being the likes of Country Road recording losses, while the Australian market continues to show some challenges. Overall profitability is at the back foot with profits down 24%, and the guys are cutting down lower the dividends to shareholders by 29%. But the balance sheet remains stable, and the guys are just going to be weathering the storm in the short to medium term until consumer confidence improves. And when we get into those market developments, when we look at the private sector PMI numbers locally, our business activity for the domestic economy is showing marginal growth. We're just barely above 50, Ashraf, and it's showing some signs of resilience on the output, but weaker in terms of sales. There's a weaker employment taking place, and not forgetting the low business confidence in the areas like manufacturing and retail, suggesting that we're in a fragile economy, and efforts like external issues like the US tariff are already reflecting its impact on export volume sales. Meanwhile, globally, investors are paying attention to some of the higher bond yields on certain worries are happening in regards to government's higher budgets and debts and sustainability of that. And this concern has seen yields higher. They've provided support for gold outside the fact that investors are looking at rate cuts. Gold is up 0.7, continuing to be bullish with strong momentum, looking at more and more all-time highs at $3,558 an ounce. Oil pulls back 2% on the fact that OPEC would be considering increasing more supplies, but it's still some level of bullishness. It still holds. It's at $67.62 a barrel. Investors' fear gauge reflects no concern as it states, and the global stocks are now rising. US indices, we see the likes of Nasdaq up 1%, S&P 0.5, Europe, DAX, FTSE up 0.4. Locally, JSE is holding up 0.2, thanks to resource sector clustering higher 3.6%. Financials down 1.6. Industrials down 0.3. Looking at the currency, rand against the dollar 17.65, relatively unchanged to start of the week. Rand against the euro 20.59, rand against the pound 23.71.
Okay, and that's the whole story. Paswane, thanks for that. We'll have another update, a detailed one, coming up from 6 to 7 this evening with Jimmy Muyaha and the SAFM Market Update.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme, Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, I want to mention two things. Lee Nike comes up as a guest around 5:20, and he talks about the important role that business must play in growing the nation. And really, don't want to miss that one. It's very important, right? The other important thing that's happening, and it's happening right now in Bloemfontein, is the Digital Content Creator Colloquium. And I'll tell you what, I'm very disappointed I'm not there, because I am so drawn to digital content creation and what that really means in this changing world. Well, I'm not there, but Kuselo Diko, you certainly are there, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technology. So much appreciate your time, Kuselo. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you so much for inviting me. Unfortunately, I share your disappointment, but at least I've got something to look forward to. I'm there tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't think I've been this excited about a colloquium or anything of that nature in a long time.
Yeah, well, there you are. So I've certainly got serious FOMO, and maybe yours will be solved by tomorrow anyway, right? But let's talk about this. I mean, first of all, just so that we understand it, because we have a broad section of people listening to the show, and some of them know exactly what we're talking about, others don't. When we talk about, digital content creation, right, or a content creator, who are we referring to here?
Okay, Ashraf, digital content creators are part of an economy. And I think my excitement around this is that for the first time, we're really tapping into the digital creative economy. Now, these would be people, mostly young people, who are influencers, who are content creators, meaning that they put together, whether it's stories or people just chatting about things, they're influencing culture with their music, with their dance. And what makes all of this different is that it then happens on digital platforms. So you would see their content on the likes of TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter, X, and so forth. And it's an untapped market that across the world is worth over 250 billion rand. And I think, this has been a groundbreaking initiative by the Free State government to say, let's bring these young people together. Let's have conversations about this digital economy. South Africa created a couple of years ago something that was called the Creative Industry Master Plan, which at the core of it did have the harnessing of digital technologies in order to drive that particular economy. Ashraf, it's amazing. I mean, I've just recently been exposed to the gaming industry, which would be part of the broader digital economy, where young people are coding. They are using their software development skills to create games. Like when you and I were growing up, I'm sure you used to play Pac-Man and those type of things. Now, that industry in South Africa alone is worth over 5 billion rand. And in the difficult times that our economy is facing, we should be really supporting, meeting these young people at their place of need to find out how do we take that which you are already doing and enhance it, ensure that it's monetized, it's commercialized. And those are the conversations that we're looking at having with them tomorrow.
Okay, so maybe just run through. I mean, you don't have to have everything, but just maybe 5 key points of debate and conversations that will take place. I mean, you already mentioned, monetization is one of them. The others?
Okay, so there's the issue of economic opportunities in general, right? So issues of skills development, access to resources. There's an element of there as well that they'll be doing around matchmaking, so bringing brands together. Because one of the good things that these young people are able to do is to also act as influencers, as part of marketing campaigns for brands. So there'll be that matchmaking. Then there's an issue that I think I've been asked to speak to specifically, which is around, the cultural influence that they're able to extend and whether or not there's a need for regulation of those platforms. I mean, you would have seen, for example, podcasts, which do fall into the category of the digital content creation, where these platforms have become not only places of self-expression, but in certain instances, they've been harmful in terms of how they've used those platforms. So responsible use of this, understanding that as you engage, you are creating narratives and you do have a responsibility as a content creator in terms of how you use. I mean, some of these platforms have over 1 million people, dare I say, larger than SAFM in terms of their reach. So it's important that while we don't stifle anybody, we don't gag anybody, we allow them to express themselves in the way that they need to, but they need to do that but within a framework. I think a framework that's in the national interest, linked to the Constitution, safeguarding the rights of others. So consumer protection will be a thing. But we must also talk about civic engagement, because like now we're going to elections, and these platforms, again, as I indicated, have got extensive reach, and we must guard against them being used for misinformation, for disinformation, trying to have conversations about what else has been done around the world to manage fake news, deepfake, the use of AI to manipulate opinion and views of people, and how do we get local solutions to that? Because what works in Europe will not necessarily work in South Africa, but we have a responsibility to ensure that those misinformation disorders are dealt with. And then finally, Ashraf, you just asked me for a few things, is the issue of cybersecurity. Now, we do have cybersecurity laws in this country, which to a large extent are meant to deal with criminal incidences or criminal conduct. But there's a fine line within there, which again relates to these issues of misinformation that I was talking about, that how do we ensure that our laws are responsive, they are not restrictive, but you deal with things like cyberbullying and child pornography, and how do you bring in then the regulators like FPB into those conversations? So we're looking forward to it, but I think as we're going in there, our intention is to really help them unleash their creativity, innovation. There's no way as a country we can hope to leapfrog into the digital age when you're not looking at this digital startup ecosystem in all its facets and ensuring that we consciously and deliberately support it.
So, I mean, so that's the point. I mean, of course, yours is part of a more formal colloquium. There could be others that are, similar types, even at small regional and community level. So what is your thoughts then in terms of how much more needs to be done to effectively shift this entire digital content creation pathway onto a digital superhighway? And for many people listening say, actually, it's been done already. But your point is it has to be absolutely, it has the capacity to become mainstream, right?
It has the capacity to be mainstream, and there are a few things. Firstly, the foundation. I chair the Portfolio Committee on Digital Technologies, and one of the most basic things that we are struggling with is connectivity, so universal connectivity across the country. I think that some of these content creators would have greater access if we ensured that we had a phone with access and affordable data in the hands of every South African. Then we need to look at how do we assist in terms of not formalizing it. It doesn't need formalizing, but I'll make an example that I had a meeting with TikTok on Friday in anticipation of this colloquium. And I was raising with them the issue of monetization, where there are allegations being made that South African content creators are not being paid like everybody else in the world. They obviously would have made their imports, refuting some of those allegations, showing us how they do their monetization. But Ashraf, we need those platforms themselves to be accountable, right? Because to deal with these issues that we're talking about, including monetization, including access, we can't be dealing with faceless, nameless things that we don't know. X is a case in point. So to grow our economy, to grow the digital economy, we need to have the platforms themselves also as responsible corporate citizens, where, there's debates, I won't bore you into it, but to say they're using the networks that our mobile network operators, our telecoms companies would have built, but then they have no role in, ensuring that they contribute to our digital development fund that's supposed to ensure that these young people have skills and things like that to be able to drive. So it's on both sides. It's both the content creators themselves, it's the platforms, and it's finding, I suppose, that golden balance, where nobody feels that we're over-regulating, we're creating too much laws, but to channel things to work properly so that young people in particular can benefit the most from the activities. Hence, I was saying meeting them at their point of need.
I mean, it's interesting your point about being faceless, because that's the oft-repeated argument, whether one is dabbling on Instagram and has got a complaint, or on the X platform or TikTok or something like that. You just get this bot that replies to you, and at some stage they just shut you off and you have no recourse whatsoever. That's a big complaint. But fine, another conversation for another time. Just to wrap up then, right? So a person listening to you and I talking, and I'm hoping that as we're talking, they are like switched on. Even if they were switched off just now, to say, hold it, man, I need to dabble in this digital economy. So it's not just for fun, but it's a business in a country where there's massive unemployment, right? What advice, therefore, would you give someone who is contemplating earning bigger monies, much more than they have right now, and understanding that, hold it, they could sell apples or they could actually enter the digital economy? What advice would you give them?
I would definitely tell them not to hesitate, but they must start. They must start if they've got a story to tell. If they are, people have even started by selling apples, like you're saying, but using that platform to be able to package their message in a way that is appealing so that it gets a broader access to people. They must attend sessions like this. There you're going to be speaking about how to move from side hustle to an empire. We're going to be talking about, real world strategies. You remember Casper Nyovest when he had the whole fill up F&B stadium. Now he took his business, he took it online, and he used content creation, so to speak, to ensure that it translates into real money in his bank account. So they need to follow. You have to follow the trends, because unfortunately that is where it is. But understand the business aspects of it. So when you go into the platform, make sure the conditions, the terms and conditions, you understand. Make sure that you understand how the entire ecosystem works. So it's not just about luck. You have to build the numbers. You have to ensure that you're wired into all of that. But also there are people who are industry leaders. As much as all of this is being done, we have built some specialist capacity in the country, and I think it's important then to learn from them. And finally, Ashraf, is just to educate themselves on the ethical use of these platforms, because yes, we want everybody to make money, but we still have a nation that we have to ensure continues to cohere. So you can't be a person who lives on a platform with the intention of inciting hatred and violence, regardless of how many likes you get.
All right.
So it's really about all of that.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'm certainly going to encourage people, maybe just Google it for the Digital Content Creators Colloquium. Much appreciate your time. I think lots to reflect on, and really there's low-hanging fruit out there. You need to grab it. Kuselo Diko, thank you for your time. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies. We're going to touch on that accident, that horrific accident took place in Buccleuch today, right after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
In fact, it's in Midrand, the Buccleuch interchange and the Allendale Road, that Midrand near the Gallagher Estate. Very, very busy part of the northern parts of Joburg, right? So 5 people, I understand, killed in a taxi crash on that N1. Let's find out more about it in terms of what we know and what has happened next with Xolani Fila, the JMPD spokesperson. Appreciate your time, Xolani. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon to you, and let me also take the opportunity to greet the listeners.
Thank you. And again, we were talking at a sad time. It's not a nice story to talk about, but what has happened here?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can confirm that earlier this afternoon there was an accident, a fatal accident involving a single vehicle, which is an overturned mini taxi bus that happened on the N1 North between the Buccleuch interchange and the Allendale Road in Midrand. And due to this accident, unfortunately, 5 people lost their lives. And amongst those 5 is the driver, and multiple injuries were also reported. Emergency personnel and the law enforcement officials were on scene, of course, for the processing of the scene and to make sure that the roads are clear for motorists to use, and that closure of one of the lanes then caused heavy disruptions due to the processing of the scene. Currently, we can confirm that the N1 freeway has been reopened. All the officials are done with the scene, and we are still seeing heavy traffic disruptions in the area despite the obstruction being removed.
Yeah, and let's touch on the taxi factor. Am I putting too fine a point on reminding you and I that in fact a taxi was involved?
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me
the fact that a taxi is involved? We find there's so many accidents nowadays where a common factor is a taxi.
We are seeing some of these accidents involving public transport, whether it be minibus taxis, whether it be buses as well. We are seeing accidents also involving private vehicles and also heavy-duty vehicles like trucks. But when a fatal accident does happen, then it is of serious concern, and especially if it does involve public transportation, then we have to look and scrutinize what could have been the cause of the accident, either driver behavior, either the conditions of the roads or the condition of the vehicle. But with a incident in a case like this that has happened today, a formal case will be opened at the South African Police Services for culpable homicide, just to further investigate what could have been the cause of this accident.
Okay. And just the last thing, I mean, I suppose every accident is horrific, but it also teaches us lessons. What can you remind us just around the issue of, for goodness sake, be safe on the roads and drive safely?
Pardon, sorry, can you kindly repeat that?
I was saying,
again?
I mean,
Yeah, sure.
these accidents serve to remind us of the need to drive safely. What can you tell us so that we can all get it?
No, it is definitely important for us to be driving safely on our roads in the city of Johannesburg. We know that we do have some of the busiest roads in not only the province but the country as well. So you have to adhere to all the rules of the road, adhere to any instruction that's been given by traffic officials. But your utmost duty, of course, is for you to be responsible on the roads. Don't speed, don't be distracted while driving, like using your cell phone, texting or speaking on your cell phone. Avoid driving under the influence of alcohol, but also be mindful of the road conditions and weather conditions as well. But just as important as you having a valid documentation for you to be operating a motor vehicle on a public road, your vehicle needs to be in a roadworthy condition.
Good point.
Especially if you are going to be transporting the public, you need to make sure that it is in tip-top condition.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Sad day again, 5 people dying in that accident in Midrand, north of Johannesburg. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you. Ashraf Sabir summoned to appear in Parliament in huge military parade in China. Good day to you. The Deputy Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sabir, has been summoned to appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee. The committee's probing allegations made by the KZN Police Commissioner of police interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Sabir, who was in the High Court in Pretoria today, wants his suspension to be declared unlawful and invalid. He spoke to journalists outside court.
As you can see, as you know, but I'll wait for my time to comment at the ad hoc and at the commission. I will be able to open up and say what I think needs to be said.
The Khampepe Commission of Inquiry into the Sundiso building fires indicated that the hijacking of buildings in the Johannesburg CBD is a result of poverty, which forces residents to live in unsafe conditions. 76 people, mostly foreign nationals, died when a fire engulfed the hijacked state-owned building in Marshalltown in Johannesburg in 2023. The Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi.
In summary, this is what the report states. 1. The root cause misidentified. The investigation challenges the common assumptions that hijacked buildings are the primary problem. Evidence shows that only a small minority, 5.7%, of properties had allegations of rent collection by non-owners. The crisis is instead driven by extreme poverty and a severe lack of affordable housing, forcing people into unsafe living conditions.
The National Consumer Commission's issued a widespread vehicle recall affecting several major car brands in South Africa to repair some defects. The recall impacts models from Ford, BMW, VW and Hino. The Commission says Ford is recalling its Mustang vehicles from 2021 and 2022, as well as its Transit Custom vehicles made available between 2024 and this year. BMW is recalling its X3 series, while VW is recalling certain Polo models made available from the 19th to the 23rd of May this year. Hino is recalling some of its 500 series buses. Commission spokesperson Peto Ntaba.
We really want to urge the owners of all these vehicles and the bus to immediately contact their accredited or authorized dealerships for them to carry out the necessary repair. Remember, you just need to ensure that your vehicle is not affected. If you're not sure, contact them and give them their VIN number. And of course, where they need to repair the vehicle or replace any defective component, they will carry that or they will do that at no cost to you as a consumer.
The Zion Christian Church is expected to hold its New Year consecration conference in Moria outside Polokwane in Limpopo from today to next week, Wednesday. Church spokesperson Moechen Gwepe.
This is the time of high traffic volume and increased movement of people, including pedestrians and road users around the church vicinity. In light of this, community members, including ZCC congregation, are advised to comply with the following: to observe road safety protocols, to obey traffic regulations and signage, respecting pedestrian crossings, practicing courtesy and patience for reasons of public safety. The ZCC is not in any way against the SMMEs, but that is mainly for safety measures.
Further afield now, China's put on a huge display of its latest military hardware at a parade through the heart of the capital, Beijing, attended by the leaders of Russia and North Korea. The BBC's Laura Picker has more.
There's no doubt that President Xi's determined to create a new world order, to symbolise power and strength. However, when it comes to the three together, it is worth pointing out that these three countries have many differences. These three leaders have many differences. China is by far the senior partner in this relationship. North Korea's economy relies on China, especially for much of its food aid. Russia needs China to buy its oil and gas as it's heavily sanctioned. And that reliance rankles both Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un.
The top story: the Deputy Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrach Sabia, has been summoned to appear before Parliament's ad hoc committee. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports, Garabo Meso cracks the nod for a Proteas Women's World Cup squad, and in the business of sport, we'll discuss why World Cup qualification will transform SAFA financially. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Centurion has a crash reported at Brakfontein interchange. On 14th Avenue in Floracliff, there's a crash at the N1 highway, and on the N1 northbound in Midrand, a serious crash with fatalities between Buccleuch interchange and Allendale Road. All lanes are open, but there's heavy traffic, so please use alternative routes. In KZN, congestion reported. That's truck congestion in the Rosberg area, so you're asked to expect delays. In Cape Town, the R44 northbound in Stellenbosch, slow moving at Die Boert, and on the M5 southbound, queuing traffic reported towards Racecourse Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. all on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Well, talking about messages, you better remember this one. Now, today marks the beginning of the Vision 2040 in Durban, which is convened by the South African National Parks. SANParks Vision 2040 is a strategic framework that brings together civil society groups, communities, traditional leaders, women, government, private sector, donors, and sponsors, and so on. To reimagine conservation by integrating natural and cultural heritage with social justice and economic empowerment. So Vision 2040, championing the harmony of people and nature.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You know, we often get people commenting about how people in public spaces, government spaces communicate, and we often get lots of praise for the spokesperson for the Ministry of Police, right? So here's another one from Farai saying, what an eloquent, erudite commentator, or communicator rather, MP Kusela Diko is. She's very convincing and seems on top of her game, knowing what she's talking about. A future minister for sure, from Farai. So there we are. Another comment, any other leaders in government, spokespeople and ministers too that you find that impresses you in terms of the narrow line of just how well they communicate? I'd like to know. Right, we touched on this early on. The provincial ANC spokesperson, Stan Matabata, he's resigning or has resigned as the party's ANC provincial chairperson, right? So what does all this mean, right? Because, one thing is resigning when you say, for personal reasons. The other is being very upfront about your criticism of the goings on in that region of the ANC, right? So with me is Zakhele Ndlovu, the political analyst from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Zakhele, you're connected to the National Pulse. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon.
Right.
And good afternoon to the listeners.
So what then do you make of this resignation and the reasons offered? Because it's not a silent reasons of hush, hush, I'm going to go on a holiday or retirement. It's something very upfront that talks to a leadership disconnect within the ANC, certainly in that region.
Yeah, so this is an interesting development. Say it's a masterstroke on the part of Stan Matabata, because look, he has nothing to lose by stepping aside. We know that he's not running for re-election as the chair of the ANC in Limpopo, so he's got nothing to lose here. Instead, what he's done here is protecting his reputation and his integrity, as he states in the letter that he wrote to the ANC. So I think that for him to do what he has done, it shows that he cares about his political future, because I'm sure that's what he was thinking when he penned the letter to the ANC.
So when you say master stroke, I mean, then it suggests someone being very, very strategic and very, very tactical. So what would be his tactical game then?
Look, so right now he is the Deputy Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development. So he's safe. He's got that position. And of course, he's eyeing the next ANC conference in 2027. We know that he harbors ambitions to be a senior leader in the ANC at the national level. He has already served as chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo, I think 2 terms, if I'm not mistaken. So right now, this is a strategic move on his part to move away from provincial politics and focus on national politics and his future there.
Okay, and then let's just touch on his criticism of the ANC. I mean, it comes on the backdrop of vote rigging or allegations of vote rigging, and him suggesting that things are not what they should be, certainly not to the standards that the ANC should uphold itself. How significant is that? Because one thing is about him, but at the same time, he's also damning his own party.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look,
what he's saying is an open secret by now. I mean, we know that this has been going on in many provinces, and there have been complaints about that. Like, there's a complaint now about what happened specifically at the Bembe region, and I believe Waterberg region. So we know that there have been a lot of irregularities in the ANC conferences. And so what he's saying is not something that comes as a shock. But I think it's important that people see what has been going on, and it does confirm actually what people have been saying. But he should be commended for, coming out and say that these things are happening.
But I mean, generally speaking, within the ANC, if you are still within very much inside the party, do you get rewarded or do you get sidelined when you are very, very open and honest? I'm looking at people like Ben Turak, for example, who effectively voted against ANC vote at that time regarding, I think it was President Jacob Zuma at the time. And then, I mean, that was the end of his political career.
Yeah, so that's interesting because in recent weeks we've seen, I believe, Senzo Mchunu, the suspended police minister, he said some things about the ANC which has made the leadership of the ANC unhappy. And I think also Malusi Gigaba has said some things, so is Naledi Pandor. So I think we're seeing more of these ANC leaders coming out and saying things. And the question now, as you ask, is that going to serve them well? Are they going to be sidelined or what? But my suspicion here is that they are all positioning themselves for the next national elective conference of the ANC, because we know there's going to be a lot of factions, and so I think each of these leaders is trying to make themselves relevant and for people to talk about them. And I think the fact that we're talking about Mathabatha and there have been stories in the newspapers about him, I think it serves him well. But it also shows that all is not well in the ANC. Look, let's be honest about it. For a very long time now, I mean, since the president of Thabo Mbeki, there's been a lot of problems in the ANC, factions, and the ANC struggling to, solve its internal problems, which really raise a lot of questions about how the ANC can solve the country's problems if it is struggling to solve its own internal problems.
And therefore, what has been, I mean, the stepping aside has gone directly to the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. Have you been able to pick up reaction from within the ANC sources and maybe outside so far since news of the chairperson in Limpopo stepping down?
Look, the irony here is that there have been some national executive members who were assigned to go and preside over the regional conferences. So the question now is, what has been their role in all of this? Because it's not like Lutsuli was not represented there. So as to how Fikile Mbalula and the NSC is going to address these matters, I think it remains to be seen.
Okay, let's leave it at that. And I think one can question what happens next for the African National Congress, what happens next for the ANC in that region, in the light of all the developments that are taking place. And of course, all this building up to some serious jockeying for position, as I would expect, ahead of the local election, municipal election next year, and then, of course, the general election coming up in a few years' time. And how decisive may that be? By the way, I welcome your thoughts and your calls on that. Talking about being decisive, we'll chat in a moment or so to Lee Naik, the CEO of TransUnion Africa. I mean, he's got a take, which I suppose may be the obvious, about partnerships, growing South Africa as a country through partnerships, through multiple sectors to drive economic growth. We'll do that right after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief.
You had given an undertaking that phase 1 would be done by the end of August, such that the road would be operational by the beginning of September. What made you miss your own deadline?
The road on its own, we can drive. Yesterday, actually, we tested a whole lot of cars on the road. The issue is the snags on the sides. As you understand that we are redesigning the entire city. It's no longer about the road, but we're creating sidewalks, a more livable city than just fixing the road and off we go. If we were fixing just the road and forget about the side infrastructure, we would say we are complete, but we're just dealing with the snags. If you drive there, you'll see there's a whole new pavement and other things that have been created.
That's Zweli Nyati, who is the CEO of the Johannesburg Roads Agency.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. You are listening to SAFM Radio this Heritage Month.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
And by the way, you know this. We have podcasts of all the conversations that really matter up, and you can find it, safm.co.za, and we tweet it out as well. So please listen, download that, and then, if you heard it again, listen a second time, and then share that with people within your networks. They're great as you, the bringer of conversations that come through here on the National Pulse, right? Talking about conversations, Kandisa in Matlosana, you want to comment about issue in the Northwest?
Akash, good evening. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Go for it. What's your point?
Good. Otherwise, I want to talk about this joint committee of COPTA nationally that is led by Mr. Mkhize, Zweli Mkhize.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Asrash, we as communities, we've been raised issues. And we are so worried when we have been listening to the joint committee when they engage municipalities today. Now, I ask myself, what are the outcomes of these committees? Is the municipality going to be, as they are dysfunctional? What action they are going to take as a committee?
What do you think? Because we don't know, right? So what do you think?
Look, Aslanj, the way they were raising issues, let me do example on the issues of Matlosana. There are answers that the management and the politicians, they didn't answer to the level that the committee is satisfied. And the chairperson stopped the members of the committee to engage further so that they must know why the municipality get qualified audit. You see, when they receive unqualified, now we are in qualified audit outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And other questions, they don't answer them satisfactory to the committee. Now, I ask myself as a member of the public, what are the consequences that the committee will take to make sure that this municipality functions very well?
Okay, of course, we don't have an answer. You don't have it. I don't have it. You've asked the question. We'll find out about that answer soon enough. But thanks for raising it here on the National Pulse, Kandisa. Right, we're gonna move on. In fact, we'll chat to Lee Naik after this.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So, picking up on that call from Kandisa and of course many of the other callers we've had about a range of issues on today's show of the National Pulse, there's an unsettling sense of people being restless about where we are as a country and what needs to happen for the future. And I would think that Lee Naik may have the same sense of restlessness about where we are and where we need to be going. So he's the CEO of TransUnion Africa, and he's got some thoughts around, partnerships and linking, all of us, I would think, to corporate South Africa needing to do much more. So let's pick his brain. Lee Naik, good chatting to you on the National Pulse. Hi.
Ashraf, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let's get to the end goal of your. I mean, I'm picking up a thought leader piece that you published. I probably first saw it on LinkedIn. I think it was, right. When you put out a thought leader piece of that type, you're part of TransUnion Africa, so it's a global company, right? How influential is that thought leader piece?
Well, ultimately, what we're trying to do is in the professional network where CEOs and other leaders and entrepreneurs are all accessing content, the idea is to be quite provocative, Ashraf, and realize that the challenges we face as South Africa are common challenges. And sometimes as leaders in organizations, we have the ability to share with others a point of view, a concern, and to almost test and feel whether there's resonance with what is being said. In this case, it is very clear to me that 31 years into our democracy, a lot of work has to be done to include a large part of our communities. We believe some 16 million people are financially excluded. And the reality, though, is as we focus on this tough economy, what we think will be a tough period going ahead, can we afford to leave behind the communities that well into our democracy are not inclusive in what we want to be a better life for all of its people?
Well, I would think the answer obviously is we can't afford it, and therefore we have this sense of restlessness and social unrest that takes place. But interesting in terms of your thoughts, right? Amongst the many things that you've said, I mean, your headline story is just critical, that the future of growth lies in community. And a call to corporate South Africa. So you're really directing it to corporate South Africa. You're telling corporates that the future of growth lies in community. Explain that.
Well, absolutely. So right now, from the way South Africa is set up, we have around 43 million adults in South Africa today. But as I've mentioned, only around 28 million actively participate in the financial system. Now, as the largest credit bureau in Africa, we have a good sense as to what that population looks like. The reality, though, is that the hopes and the dreams of those that want to participate are not seen because they don't look like you and I. They aren't actively participating, accessing home loans and personal loans and cars to start up their small businesses. Here's the provocation. If we want to really drive the growth of the economy, we've got to find a way to get to the people and where they are in their journey. If you want someone to be a bit...
As we talk, there's a bit of a pause, and I think it's a connectivity pause, and let's hope we can reconnect out of that disconnection. Lee, do I have you there? Maybe not, because it's important that we not disconnected, not just between Lee and I, but certainly us as a country around the issues of partnerships, isn't it? Because if you're disconnected as a country on partnerships, then we do have a serious problem. Just a reminder for me to tell you as well, right? Come up with your own suggestions in terms of the type of contents that we cover and what we're doing, if you like it, and what we're missing out on. And I'll tell you what, there's many ways to do it, but besides WhatsApping us on voice notes, the quickest way is just using social media. Just really, SAFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garner, just tweet us, or LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever. We'll certainly get it. Lee, we're back with you. You were talking about, the massive numbers of people who are not like you, for example, who have huge hurdles to face every single day.
So as an active suggestion, one of the things that we are actively doing as TransUnion is finding ways to better understand the potential in people that can't access finances. We know that we need access to credit and finances to start our small businesses. We need access to employ other people. But if we can't access the opportunity because we don't have the certain persona or the profile, so the article sets the hypothesis is that if you want to grow the economy, we need to create the future consumers today by investing in understanding the communities, investing in growing the grassroots foundation at the education level, groom the future consumer you want today. And if we don't do that today, then actually we will be stuck with the current set of people that drive the economy. And we're still at the 1.4% mark. How do you get to the 3%, 5% mark by 2030? We're going to have to invest in the future starting now. That's the provocation. And if we can do it as a medium-sized organization, could we all do a bit more to groom the future, to drive down the 33% unemployment in the country? It requires more for corporate South Africa to enable SMMEs to hire people, to groom them into their potential.
All right, so I hear the wish list, but so in practical terms, somebody listening to you and I talking completely switched on, saying, I need to do something. What are you asking them to do?
Well, absolutely, a few things. So one thing that we're doing as TransUnion, we are finding ways to hire people from the communities. In the last 4 years, we've hired 1,000 people that work in the communities that actually service our business processing centers. So find ways to hire people in the communities. They may not be ready for the analytical work we do, but get them a job in the contact center, in the service industry, groom them into the first jobs they have. So can we do more to hire people that have the potential but aren't immediately job ready? One. Number two, if we believe that Africa is the future workforce of the world, and we know that AI and all these technology advances are happening, what are we doing as corporate South Africa to sponsor the schools, to sponsor the education, to groom up the educational skills we need to support Africa and support the world? Those are two examples. The third example is that for these 16 million people that want access to opportunity, whether as a telco, a bank, or as an insurer, are we doing business differently so we can see them as potential customers versus excluding them directly from the conversation and from participating in this economy?
So we're on to news time. So very quickly, when we talk therefore of partnerships, right? I mean, who are the partnerships you refer to, and to what degree? So who's getting it right and who's not getting it right at this point in time?
Well, I think there are quite a few partnerships. A good example is Bulelani Balabala with the Technology Entrepreneurship Association, bringing the entrepreneurs together and representing them in corporate South Africa. I think there's a lot happening, but not enough. And that's the provocation. What more can we all do to address the unemployment, to groom us for the future growth we seek for South Africa?
But just the last thing, if we want to do that, and if we say that's the wish list, but we actually don't have the money, we're just battling to break even, how do we then, do this outreach when practically we ourselves are struggling?
I think it is possible by driving more efficiencies and effectiveness. As you know, my background is strategy transformation. Finding ways to become more effective and efficient, you're able to then free up capital to find these ways of working. It is absolutely difficult for everybody. If we stop and hold back right now, then the currently bad situation will exacerbate in the short term. I believe there's a balance between driving growth and driving margins and actually driving community outreach to drive inclusion in the economy.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Partnerships to grow economy starting. Well, Alpha Dokamani build a champion nation by building a champion economy, a champion community. The United, you can leave it at that. Feel free, by the way, to tweet out or LinkedIn the piece once again, and we'll gladly share that too. I think it's worth sharing. We'll have that up as a podcast as well pretty soon. Lee Nike from TransUnion Africa, the CEO there. Let's get the news headlines. Just goes 5:30.
In the headlines, the lawyer for the National Police Commission has argued that the application brought before the High Court by the Deputy Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sabia, is premature. National Treasury's reported significant progress in its smart meter rollout, and anti-government demonstrators in Israel have set fire to cars and tyres in Jerusalem. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R21 northbound in Kempton Park is where a crime scene is reported on the off-ramp to Voortrekker Road. The N1, N3 northbound queuing towards Buccleuch interchange due to a serious crash on the N1 north towards Allendale Road, and on the N1 northbound in Midrand, that serious crash with fatalities between Buccleuch interchange and Allendale Road. All lanes are open, but there's heavy traffic, so you're encouraged to use alternative routes. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Ashburton, a stationary vehicle after Market Road, Chris Hani Road westbound is slow moving at the N2 highway, and on the M4 northbound, roadworks with traffic restrictions towards Quality Street exit. In Cape Town, Kromboom Road eastbound in Rondebosch East has heavy traffic towards Jan Smuts Drive. Robert Sepukwe Road southbound in Belleville South is where a crash is reported near Castlesflay Road, and the N1 inbound, a stationary truck on the ramp to Marine Drive. The ramp's been closed. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
In sports this hour, let's start things off with cricket, where 17-year-old wicket-keeper Karabo Meso has been named in the Proteas women's squad for the upcoming World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. Meso will be playing in her first senior global tournament after featuring in 2 under-19 Women's T20 World Cup. She will compete with Sinalo Jafta for the wicket-keeping role. And just looking at that full squad, it will be led by Laura Vilvoorde, with senior players Chloe Tyron, Marizan Kapp, Ayabonga Kaka and Sunay Lees adding experience, and Nonkulila Gomlaba heading the attack in spin, while Masabata Klaas and Dumis Kukune boosting the seam options. Then let's move on to the business of sport.
The business of sports with Tuming Khapele.
Now, obviously, we know that Bafana Bafana are playing in the World Cup qualifiers, and they're playing against Lesotho and Nigeria on Friday and next week Tuesday. So in terms of the business of sport today, we're looking at why would World Cup qualification basically transform SAFA financially. And as per usual, every single Wednesday, we talk to our sports finance guru, Nqobile Ndlovu, who is the founder of Cash and Sport. A very good afternoon to you, Nqobile. It's always great chatting to you, but let's talk a bit more about how much could World Cup qualification realistically boost SAFA's annual revenue.
To me, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners. The World Cup qualification, I think, will have a significant effect on SAFA's finances. SAFA has been struggling financially for quite a number of years. If you recall, at the end of last year, they got a 5 million rand advance on their payment from government in order to be able to pay salaries. Banyana went to the AFCON this year under a cloud because they hadn't been paid. Coach Desiree Ellis went to the AFCON without a contract, and she hadn't had a contract in almost a year. And we know now that 2 of their sponsors are going into liquidation, which is Bankso and Le Coq Sportif. So both of those things, and all of those things in total, are huge financial pressures on SAFA. But SAFA as an organization has 2 of the most valuable national teams in Banyana and Bafana Bafana. They get more viewership than most. If a Banyana team plays, Banyana plays, or Bafana plays, they get more viewership than if on a comparable rate to either the Springboks or the Proteas. But they only generate about a third or half the revenue that SA Rugby generates, and less than that from Cricket South Africa. So I think that it'll have a hugely transformative effect, in that a lot of brands will want to associate with South African football again, especially if we go in and do quite well.
Absolutely. And I mean, the fact that you're mentioning how there's a lot of eyeballs when Banyana or Bafana are playing, and we also know that football in South Africa is one of the most popular sport. Why then is SAFA still the weakest commercially?
I think SAFA suffers from a big PR problem. The perception is that there's a lot of issues with regards to maladministration. There's constant issues with players, complaining about ill treatment. It's not the first time. There's been multiple issues in the past before. Then you have the issues with regards to the president, who is again now under a cloud with regards to court appearances and the like. Multiple ministers have tried to intervene, but you can't remove a sitting president simply like that. It's very difficult. So I think there's a perception problem that South African football isn't valuable, and it's not managed properly in as far as SAFA is concerned. And I think that's affected the confidence of sponsors and brands to want to get involved. Also, when you're not winning, it doesn't help. It's very appealing to be a Springbok sponsor right now because they win. The last time Bafana qualified for a World Cup was in 2002. So quite frankly, it's not been an appealing product to tap onto. But they've been winning lately in the last year, and they're going to an AFCON, and they're probably going to qualify for a World Cup.
Yeah, we've seen them improve over the years, and hopefully they do qualify for the World Cup. But before I let you go, beyond the finances then, what does qualification mean for football's development pipeline and grassroots investment?
The big reason why will be important is because SAFA needs money in order to run the development pipeline. At the moment, there's only money really for the national team coach and administration at the top level. There isn't any money really for the junior national teams, as well as then the development pipeline. You need money. So the more revenue that they generate, and I suspect they will be able to generate maybe a third more revenue than they are right now. The more revenue you generate, the more money you have to feed into the broader pipeline, as well as then the other thing is there's a lot of youth who are going to be watching this World Cup and will be seeing their future heroes on TV, and it will prove to be an inspirational point for those people as well.
Well, we're really hoping that Bafana do qualify for the World Cup. They're playing in the World Cup qualifiers on Friday and next Tuesday against Lesotho and Nigeria. Ngobile, it's always great chatting to you. You can follow him on his social media, Cash and Sport, Ngobile Ndlovu, and he'll be back again next Wednesday. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
All right, just before I let you go, in fact, there may well be a question. Let me see if I can ask you. Okay, I think there's a question for you, Tumi, if you can answer that.
I think it's a question from Sipo saying, please ask Ngobile about Box versus Bafana tickets, price-wise. Why is one expensive? I think, Ngobile, we still have you on the line, right?
Yes, I am.
So we have a question from one of our listeners saying that Box versus Bafana tickets, in terms of price-wise, why is one more expensive than the other?
The Springboks have made themselves a premium product. It costs more. They're a high value ticket item. A lot of people who have a lot of money to spend want to go to a Springbok game. Generally speaking, the tickets were already more expensive, because if you look at a typical Bafana game, it costs between 80 and 100 rand at the lowest level, and maybe up to about 600 rand at the very highest level in a box. For a Springbok game, you're talking about a minimum of about 150 rand to about 300 rand, and at the top level you could pay up to more than 1,000 rand for a ticket. So they were already expensive, and the fact that they've gone on to win 2 World Cups has made them even more popular, and therefore more people want to pay. But the tickets were already more expensive because SA Rugby positions rugby as a more premium product. SAFA can't really do that because, unfortunately, 75% of this population watches football, and most of those people who do watch football aren't really as well off as those people who watch rugby. So it's a little bit more difficult to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Ngobile. There you have your answer, Sipo. It's time for us to go.
Yeah, well, I think bottom line to that, one is a world champion team, and the other is not, right? But here's a question for another day. I saw a feature in the English Premiership where they broke down the 20 clubs and look at the sectors, like who are the companies that sponsor the jerseys, and then, like, first of all, who are they, and number two, which sectors do they come from? And apply the same thing and look at what comes out of South Africa. I'm very interested to know. Now, think about it, the business of sport, absolutely.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
When you're smiling, describe your favorite socks.
Pink and orange stripes.
They're blue with yellow dots. Green, and they kind of look like snakes.
The ones that make children smile.
On 19 September, wear your favorite socks and help spread smiles to children in need of a life-changing surgery. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391. And stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. The Morning Brief.
Did you leak any information to the Sunday Times?
The parliamentary questions, as you know, you are also a journalist, you know that parliamentary questions are a public document. The Sunday Times got the public, the parliamentary questions that we answered to Parliament, But I can tell you that the Sunday Times did not have everything when they sent the question. It was in the reply that was sent by the department, which I was not also party to. I just sent the things to the Sunday Times because I was told to just leave the things as they are. They handed over the story to the Sunday Times.
That's Lumka Oliphant, the suspended Chief Director of Communications.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
All right, let's get to the markets. Jimmy's show comes up from 6 to 7. But Jimmy, you want to touch on what? Investments in taxes?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, we've got quite an interesting conversation with the team at Weber Wenzel around some of the tax implications of the new proposed tax amendment bill. This is a proposal from National Treasury that could have some serious implications on things like collective investment schemes. Now, collective investment schemes for the common man such as you and I would be referring to things like unit trusts. We are going to dig into this because this forms a critical part of many retail investors' investment options, but also part of pension investments on behalf of investors and civil servants alike. So we're going to take a look at this and see what the potential implications of this could be from a tax perspective if the amendments go through. They, of course, haven't gone through as yet. They're still in a proposal stage. And then we're going to have a conversation with the teams at Aspen Pharmacare and the Woolworths Group. Both companies gave us an update on the performances for the years ended 29 June 2025. In the case of Woolworths, the business did see some significant increase in their profits. In the case of Aspen, they did see some significant increase in their losses for the year. So we're going to dig into those with each of those companies and get a sense of how they performed and how they fared. And then we've got a conversation taking a look at unsolicited debt relief offers as part of our Warning Wednesday. We're going to speak to the National Automobile Dealers Association. They wanted to flag this as a consumer awareness piece, and we're going to speak to them around that because we typically try to do our part as well in ensuring that we're able to get the message out there wherever we can. And then because it is Wednesday, we're going to wrap up the show with a executive lounge conversation. We're going to speak to the CEO of FNB Business, Ghana Msibi, get to know him a little bit better beyond his day-to-day. And then we're going to see if we can make sense of some of the market movements because I've got David Shapiro on markets a little later on. Speaking of those market movements, it has been a good day for resource counters, largely driven by the positive gold price movements. The gold price reaching new all-time highs again today, $3,563 of finance at the moment. The Brent crude price, $67.60 a barrel, a little softer than what we saw yesterday. Platinum and palladium also stronger, $1,457 in the case of platinum, $1,187 in the case of palladium. As a result, resources were up 3% today, 3.4%. Industrials down 0.16%, financials down 1.27%, but the all share up 0.33% and the top 40 up more than 0.5%. So good day on the local front. If we look at international markets to compare that to, Asian markets were all in the red. European markets were all in the green. US markets at the moment, the Nasdaq is up 1.2%, the S&P up 0.5%. So we're going to look at that as well when we do chat to David Shapiro a little later on. Quick look at the rand before we go. 17 Rand 65 is what $1 would cost you at the moment. 23 Rand 73 is £1 British pound. €1 would set you back 20 Rand and 60 cents. $1 Australian dollar, 11 Rand and 55. And $1 Bitcoin, $112,000 a Bitcoin, or in Rand terms, 1,983,000 odd Rand, just shy of that 2 million Rand mark. So we've got a lot to dig into when we come back a little later on. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. Enjoy your show 6 to 7. It means it's time for us to talk to you because you're on the pulse.
When your internet connection fails, does it really matter how fast it is? Business class internet is built for businesses. With remote monitoring, that means faster problem resolution and a backup LTE connection that keeps you online. Your company deserves business class internet because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 175 gram Protex soap, any 2 for 24 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 100 ml Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection toothpaste, or 150 ml Triple Action, any 2 for 42 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
It's a tough day for Mark. Tight deadlines and challenges everywhere. But Mark can rest easy because when he bought his Hino 700 2845 truck tractor, he received a complimentary service plan covering up to 210,000 kilometers for short haul and up to 280,000 kilometers for long haul. Nice one, Mark. Visit your dealer today to find out more about this limited time offer. Hino, all the way. T's and C's apply.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme, Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Right, let's talk, certainly. Yes, comment about content creators.
Hi, Ashraf. Sorry to sound so negative, but our government is so useless. Now that young people have found something to do by themselves without any government assistance, using platforms that are created in America, China, and so forth, they want to jump in, come in and regulate and now control and also now tax those young people that are creating something for themselves with their own, using their own initiative. Our government is so useless, Ashraf. I'm sorry to say. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Right, here's another on content again.
Good afternoon, SAFM, and to the listeners, and to the honourable guest on content creators, is Selvin Gamde from Durban. I'd just like to find out, would content creators getting an income from overseas companies or local, how is SARS going to track and monitor this income coming in? Because they're getting an income from content creating, and are they going to be monitored by SARS where tax revenue has to be collected? Please, the guests, I'll just like some info on that, on content creators and how SARS is going to monitor this, the income generated.
Okay, so the guest is gone. Can't get her to comment about that. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Kanya from Umtata. As I was watching on the news where the U.S. military shot a boat suspected of carrying drugs from Venezuela, I'm starting to see early signs of wanting to overthrow Nicolas Maduro's government. They have been trying for years now. So now Trump is just ramping up the operations. It's going to start with the boat. Next thing, the warships were in its shoreline. Now, something big is coming from Nicolas Maduro.
Okay, and in fact, I read lots of comments about that to say, yes, let's say these are drug traffickers, right? And therefore it's not allowed. But, if it's a criminal offense, try them. it's not an act of war. You don't just bomb them in the middle of the ocean, and that's effectively what happened.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, Mr. Malawi, the captain. The captain, the crime, the gang shooting is getting out of control. Really, a lot of people they stay in the fear, and in the morning even the people can't go on evening to go shopping, whatever. There's too much shooting, killing, but the government knows who's selling drugs and all that, and the community they get scared. I mean, even if you report the gang, they will come hunt you really. But I don't understand. There's a system, South Africa. There's a law. There's a police. There's army. But the community is under the fear, really. I don't understand. It's getting out of control, South Africa. Particularly was them Cape Flat, really.
Okay, well, we hear that so often. There's a sense of helplessness and hopelessness as well.
Hey Ashraf, it's Aluta here in KZN. I don't know, man. You know, every time I listen to these ANC people, I just get irritated. I just want to switch off the radio. Because you look at these ANC Youth League people, they're very same Zama Kanyase. If you know her, you just look at her. The entire NEC of the Youth League is just old people who are fat cats. They're all fat cats. They are all employed in government institutions. They got tenders. They don't care about the youth of South Africa. So right now what they are saying is just to be in the public eye and get some media attention. That's it. The ANC is the most corrupt, elaborate scam I've ever been into. I know all of these guys. These guys are just corrupt. They are self-serving. They've got no interest towards the public matters. Nothing. Thanks. Saluta in KZN here.
Well, Aluta continua. Is that what you're saying? Or maybe not the case. I mean, does that apply to the whole ANC or some leadership or some people within the ANC? Can't be everybody, can it?
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. It's fine. Hello, sir. My name is Bonga. I live in Durban. I personally think what you said about Ronaldo is true, but I also have my 2 cents. I think Ronaldo is a good player by himself and with his team, because when he does have an open shot, sometimes he does passes it to them, and he doesn't mind sharing the captain's armband when he gets off. Plus, when he has a penalty, I think that he sometimes does give other people a chance instead of him.
He does give others a chance instead of him. How often does that happen? I'm not suggesting he's not a good player. I'm a huge fan of Cristiano Ronaldo. As a Man United supporter, you know what I would have felt like over those years. But it's an interesting take in terms of where he is and who he is. But his achievements have been immense.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundis. I see Mr. Ashraf, the only person who's behind this stand-alone party is Solima Pilot. The gentleman wants a position in the government. He's so eager to go to parliament. He wants to go to parliament as in yesterday. He's been trying. All these cases coming from him. The ANC does not listen to SACP. Solima Pilot is so desperate, man. They must give him a ministerial position so that we can live in peace. The gentleman.
Okay, there we are. Solima Paila. Here's another.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and the listeners. I'm wondering, maybe it's around only here, but do you guys know that to be hired as a teacher, you need to pay a huge bribe, ranging from 20 to 45,000. Like, you can't be a teacher without bribing nowadays. Do you guys, are you experiencing the same thing wherever you are, or is it only us here in Bushbuckridge?
Well, listen, you've puzzled me. Are you saying that's normal? I'm not saying it never happens, but if we're saying it's like you suggesting that's the norm. It's like you fill in a form, name, this, that, bribe, how much, like it's normal. No, man, can't be.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundis. I see Mr. Ashraf, the only person who's behind this stand-alone party is Solima Pilot. The gentleman wants a position in the government. He's so eager to go to parliament.
Wait, I think we've played that one. Just didn't delete. My apology for that. Let's just
Afternoon,
sort that
Mr.
out as we get to the end. I just want to check if this one deleted. Sorry if it hasn't, because I'm just checking.
Hi, Ashraf. JJS takes great. That flotilla is a humanitarian reminder
to Palestine to show that the nations must not forget the atrocities that are happening in Gaza by Israel, bombing children while they are getting food and starving with them.
Okay, point made. And I think you can internalize that now.
Hi, Ashra. I'm Tulane Kunene from Newcastle. Ashra, there is no ANC Youth League. This ANC Youth League is a flip-flop for the government. They just barking. You know the dog, if it's barking, they seem like an ANC Youth League. ANC Youth League was finished in time of Julius Malema. Now, there's no ANC Youth League. Thank you.
You think so? There's no ANC Youth League? Okay. Actually, do you agree that there is no ANC Youth League?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I just want to respond to the gentleman who was speaking about the firearms and the white people. I think there's no problem with that because we are having different types of firearm holsters. Another one, you put it inside the trousers, whereby you only the grip of the firearm will be visible. But this one that you put it outside, the muzzle of the firearm will be visible because it's outside. So there's nothing wrong with that. As long as the firearm is in the firearm holster, I think is what South African law allows. So we must just let people have their firearms and protect themselves. I'm saying this as a 35-year-old South African black person who's having a firearm to protect himself in this rotten South Africa. Thank you.
Ish, man, that last phrase, this rotten South Africa. Yes, man. Okay, but I hear what you're saying. So, okay, that's an interesting one. It has to be, partly it can be visible, but if it's out of the holster, it has to be with a clear intention of using it. You can't pull it out, brandish it, and just like show off. And if that, so it can be partly visible through the holster, but not outside of it. Interesting thought there. But hey, that rotten country, no, man. We need to move from rotten to champion nation. That's the show. Thanks for listening in to the National Pulse. We'll do it again tomorrow, right? Hope you're listening. Listen to the podcast. Share that with your friends amongst your networks as well, and use that as a basis of saying, hey, I told you so, because we had some great guests today. Here's the news with Greg Host at 6 o'clock.
Thank you again. Ashraf Masamola's lawyer hits back over Sibiya court application and demonstrators take to the streets of Jerusalem. Good evening. The lawyer for National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemola has argued that the application brought to the High Court in Pretoria by the Deputy Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, is premature. Advocate Stefan Kutsiers argued that Masemola's actions in issuing Sibiya with a stay-at-home order are justified because it will allow investigations to continue without any hindrances.